Dirt roads to rock crawling, two-buck chuck to screaming eagle, moonshine to 50-year-old single malt. We talk about it all here on Wheelin' Wine and Whiskey with your hosts, Jason and Chris.
Welcome to the Wheelin' Wine and Whiskey podcast, episode 100.
No.
25.
No.
150.
No.
175.
No.
190.
Not quite.
199.
Getting closer.
200. Woo! Holy smokes, 200. Where's our audience? What's going on here? Nice. 200. There it is.
We reached it. All right, show's over.
All right. Yeah, I think we're good. I'm ready to hang up the microphone.
No.
It's been a good run.
Has it?
Yeah, we want to finish out on top. I think we should finish. After this episode, I think we should just call it quits.
Hang up our microphones and headphones. And
Lorenzo's tired. You're tired. I'm tired.
Turd.
So, yeah. No, man, isn't that crazy?
It's been a
200
wild ride.
official episodes is what this is, because we've had some bonus episodes here and there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, we actually have, I think, 211 episodes that are up in the cloud, but it's, like you said, some of those are bonuses and some are just little add-ons.
Yeah, but that's awesome. Well, I got a quick story before we get into this one, and it's related to our guest.
Yes.
There. So, I just came back from Tahoe, which has an enormous amount of snow.
What, a couple feet?
Of epic proportions. Yeah, a couple feet just in a day. It keeps hitting, man. It's incredible. So I was up there and at our good friend's Jay Barry's house there.
That's right.
And
did you help him clear the driveway?
Well, I did. So I drove into his driveway and went to back up the next morning, and it would not move. All four tires are spinning on the truck.
Oh boy!
Because it's an incline, right? And I'm like, what the? He goes, "Don't worry, I got you." And so I wiggled the front end, steering left, right, and was working it. A little bit, just giving it a little gas with the automatic and stuff. And he was pushing on the fender, and he called that a Canadian locker. Says, I got you. I got the Canadian locker. I go, yeah, that worked perfect. Just had to slide me over, with the front end spinning on the ice, basically. That snow just turned to ice instantly. Yeah. It just packed up and iced it. So just by working the front end, it gave, enough, broke the resistance enough where he was able to push the front end over 2 feet so I could drive down into his cul-de-sac and turn around and then dart it back up the hill. But it's so funny. So the Canadian locker, I hadn't heard that one before. So I thought that was apropos for our 200th episode guest here.
Yeah, absolutely. Learning all sorts of new stuff between Minnesota boat sides and Canadian lockers. What else are we going to learn?
Get it all here on the Wheelin' Wine and Whiskey podcast. So, so the KOH, which seems like a year ago now.
A month ago.
I still have some dust from KOH. I still have a couple items to clean up, but the camper's clean. Everything else, the buggy hasn't been touched. It's still got KOH dust all over it.
Dude, I used my blower, my shop blower in the side of my camper when I was cleaning it out, and it was like I felt like I was breathing KOH all over it.
Oh yeah. You smell the combination of race fuel, fireworks, campfire smoke,
and bourbon,
dust, and bourbon. Yeah, it's a nice culmination of senses there, right?
Yeah, Studio Lance got quite the workout at King of the Hammers.
Yeah,
this year.
and I really think we need to do that in our camper. We need to have a wall that people can sign when they come into the studio there, the mobile studio.
Yeah.
But this guest in particular was one that we've been wanting to get for a long time.
It was on our early bucket list from the early days of the show.
Yeah, and so finally made it happen here, KOH 2023, Ian Johnson. And what a cool guy, man. He just, there's some great stories coming at you here, so sit down, and if you're not driving and you're not operating a heavy equipment, grab yourself a beverage and relax and just... man, listen to this one. This is a good one. But most of you are driving, listening to podcasts, so try not to drive off the road with some of the comments that come your way here.
Shenanigans.
It's awesome. So I think without further ado, let's just roll it, huh, Chris?
All right.
All right.
Boom.
All right, Chris. We have another special KOH 2023 podcast here from the lake bed.
Yeah.
And this one's been a long time coming. You know, we had a lot of conversations with them and a lot of events, meet and greets. How you doing?
That's right.
Let's make this happen, and it's finally happening.
That's right.
Do we have the record button going, please?
Hold on, let me double check.
Okay, make sure. Okay, Lorenzo, we're good?
Timer's ticking,
okay,
so
perfect.
we're good.
Who do we have here, Chris?
We have one and only Ian Johnson.
Hey, Ian, welcome to the podcast. Finally, how you doing, man?
It's great to finally be here. Like you said, we've talked about this so many times. We've traded whiskey suggestions over Instagram, planned to be in each other's area, but never worked out. And now we're finally in Johnson Valley together. So I'm glad it worked out.
How about that in the middle of the California desert?
Yeah, that's
not much going on this week.
Yeah, it's been quiet for the past. I can't believe this is now a 2-week long
Isn't that
event.
insane?
Yeah, it's over the top at this point. It's getting a little bit crazy.
So how long have you been involved with KOH announcing and how did that all come about?
So the long story is I raced it in 2009, 2010.
Right.
I was here not for the OG 13, but I was part of Crawl Magazine when Crawl Magazine was the official media outlet for King of the Hammers.
Wow.
And that was back in the days of Lance and Camo in the pirate scary van on the lake bed
Right.
with 500 feet of LAN cable strung across out of the cell phone bush with a cell phone plugged into and doing text updates on Pirate 4x4. So to know that that's where it started, and now we're here now. But I started announcing, we were just talking about this the other day, I think it was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
It was the first time I announced. So what happened was my old TV show that I was on, it was when the network that I was on, they had very restrictive guidelines of what we could and couldn't do. So I wasn't allowed to do it even if I wanted to.
Okay.
So contractual obligation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
contractual
that sucks.
de-obligations. Really.
De-obligations.
Yeah.
Handcuffs called a contract.
Yeah. So when I was out of that contract with that production company, and when I signed on with Discovery to do four-wheeler and the New Deal, I made sure I told them, I said, if we're going to do this four-wheeler show, I'm not doing any of these shenanigans like we did before, and they were fine with it. And so I saw David Sema that year, and I was like, Dave, I want to do the announcing. And he's like, man, I don't know if I can pay you what you need to get paid. And I'm like, dude, just pay me what you pay everybody else. I don't care. I just want to do it for fun. And he was like, fine, you're in for what we pay everybody else. And I'm like, all right. And
it's a six-pack of beer.
Yeah, it's not that little, but it is funny. But someone said to me this once, like, why do you keep doing that? And in all honesty, like, this is not making me a lot of money doing this announcing. But at the end of the day, I come out here because it's just tons of fun. It really is.
It's the camaraderie and fun on the lake bed, right?
It is, yeah. I for a couple years, I brought a rig out. I was hoping to bring one out this year, but my schedule, I got to fly back to Nashville. And I'm kind of in and out for this week, so it didn't work out. So, but I was planning to bring my bomber out this year. Up until last year, I always drove out and brought a rig out to play around with, and it was great. But then, unfortunately, this year I couldn't do it. But next year, we'll come back next year with the bomber, and it'll be perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, I come out here because it literally is. If you're into off-road, this is the place to be. You got to be here.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. You absolutely have to see it. And it's just crazy how much it's grown. I mean, it was interesting because, I don't know, I've been coming here 12 years or so. And when COVID hit, it kind of got back to the days of old. There was less people, and unfortunately our, like Australian buddies and stuff couldn't come across the pond to us, and it was like, but it was nice. And then now it's just skyrocketed back. 100,000 people are going to be on this lake bed. There's no doubt about it.
I think we'll be at that. I base it off the campers that I see because I stay in town. It's just easier for us when we're going to be announcing all day. It's nice to get back to town, get a hot shower in the morning to get back out here. But so we drive in, and I base it on the where the campers stop on the way out on Boone Road and when they start. And it's 100,000 people. What I think this year though is, I think what's different in the past couple of years is I think we had a few years where it was like, it was just anybody came. It just came because I'm going to go to King of the Hammers, and there was people who were here just for the party atmosphere, which is fine.
Right.
But I think now, ever since COVID, I think we just have, if you're here, you're a serious off-roader.
Sure.
And you're here because you want to watch the race, you want to see the race. Yeah, you want to go and have a little bit of fun, but it's more about, I'll pay my gate fees, I'll pay my ticket, I want to get into Hammertown, and that's good for the sport, and it's good for all of us.
It really is, and it's super affordable. I mean, like if you're out here for a week, like most people people are. I mean, what is it? $100 even if you're late.
Late
Late is $100 for all this entertainment
camping,
and the best fireworks show you're ever going to see every night
Every
out here on the
single
lake bed.
Yeah, if you compare that to, I tell people were complaining about $100.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do know that this year SEMA offered up 1-day tickets to SEMA. It was $100.
Oh, for Joe Public?
Yeah, one day.
Really?
This is the first year they were allowing.
I didn't know
public
that.
viewing.
They did it last year as a trial.
Okay.
This year they did it again. They sold do the math on this quickly.
Okay.
5,000 tickets for $100
There
a
you
ticket
go.
in one day. One day you make $500,000, and then you just let those people in for one day, and they were sold out in like 24 hours.
Wow.
So I think we're going to see more of that at SEMA. I think SEMA's going to let more people in. But if you compare the two, that's one day of walking around a car show in Vegas.
And seeing all the eye candy and all the categories you could ever imagine.
Yeah, you can't see all of SEMA in a day.
No.
I've tried it; it's
No,
impossible.
no.
That's a waste of $100.
mean,
You
hell,
spend
we don't-
$100, you come out here, man. You're going to get to see. If you're into off-roading, $100 is nothing to get out here and do this.
And you're seeing rigs that were built and not just shown in a showroom. These
Yeah.
are rigs that are built and
Well,
run.
and then all flavors. I mean, you've got full-on race cars. You've got
Right.
the stock class cars. Then you've got the guys who just bring out weird, like JT Taylor brought out that freaking mega truck thing. Like came a drug, I think, out of the
Right.
South Florida swamp.
Yeah.
And he brings
Out
it
of
in.
the swamp,
and that's that's literally what you see. You see every flavor of off-road here
Oh, yeah.
in Johnson Valley this
Big
week.
Willie, the Jeep.
Big Willie's here.
The fully hydraulic one that the wheelbase can extend like 8 feet or some crazy
Oh,
thing.
Yeah. It truly is just to come here and people watch is worth the $100.
Well, and that's it. I just love walking through camp and looking at different rigs because there is everything under the sun, from some super high dollar stuff to like clapped out
bone stock stuff to
Toyotas
super high
yeah.
dollar. I mean, it's crazy.
And then the other cool aspect is like we've been doing for the last 5 days is running the same trails that the racers are going to run.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple newbies with us this year on the trail, and I'm like, they're like, okay, Thor's Hammer, this is Blue Dot, this is Ewok, this is Sledge, this is Jack, and I'm like, what's cool, guys? I said, you're running these trails and they're fun in themselves. But when you're sitting there on Friday watching EMC, Saturday watching the 4400s, you're going to recognize, those parts of the trail because you are running the same trails that the racers are running.
Absolutely.
And I mean, how cool is that?
It's very cool.
I think it's neat. What do you think about the new qualifying setup?
So Chocolate Thunder?
Yes.
I'm a little, just from a convenience point to go into Hammertown and watch. And so you got to go out to Chocolate Thunder now, but holy smokes, there's a lot of action.
Yeah.
I mean, watching
Rollovers.
cars getting just rolled over and
Yard
it's
sales.
yeah.
I like it. I was kind of the one guy who was always against qualifying when it came out. I like the old days of like draw your number out of a hat and that's where you start kind of racing. But I also understand why qualifying had to happen because the cars were just getting faster and faster and faster and it was such a mix of cars. I get it. It's almost like a safety thing.
Sure.
But I never liked qualifying because it literally, the qualifying that we've been doing for the past few years 100% favored the Shannon Campbell, Lauren Healy,
Right.
all those guys.
Right.
Big horsepower, IFS, tiny little rock trail. Not this year.
No.
This year is like, the fast qualifying time is going to be 3 minutes. The UTVs came in at 2:34.
Whoa.
We had a stock class qualifier today. Fast qualifier stock class was 20 minutes. That's a stock
20
class.
minutes?
That was our fast time for a while. Yeah, it was, and it was the best. The best part was it was stuff you never saw before in qualifying. We
Right.
had guys winching in qualifying. They planned pull up, even legends pull up, winch cable ready to go, co-driver out, run up the trail, hook up, winch over the obstacle, and then get going down the trail. We had guys passing each other in qualifying. So we had 3 cars on course.
Oh my
So there was
God.
passes in the
No
rocks.
shit.
Yeah, passes in the rocks and in the desert.
missed out.
So it is. When I was talking to Ben Napier about it and a bunch of guys, they said this qualifying course is legit a true snapshot of what a race at King of the Hammers is. It's just
Right.
done in 10 minutes instead of 10 hours.
Right.
And it really is because you're off the line. You're into Chocolate Thunder right away. We've seen guys finish with 2 flat tires, guys finish with 4 flat tires, guys not finish.
Right.
Like, imagine lining up all that work, lining up for qualify, and then you break in qualifying. That's just terrible.
Well,
and we used to see that occasionally, but
Yeah.
this is like 75 qualifiers. I think there was like, so far when I left, there was maybe 50% had finished.
Yeah.
The rest were just out. And a lot of people just backed out. It's like, no, I'm not going to qualify. It's not worth it.
That was it. Yeah. No, a lot of our,
start at the back of the field.
EMC teams, they're like, okay, I think it was $250 to qualify, but they're like, I don't want to put my car through that subject, where we're going to damage something, and we got a couple days to put it back together.
Right.
To race.
Yeah, I get it. I understand the theory behind that, and I completely respect anyone's decision to do
Sure.
that. But at the end of the day, I think this race, I think that qualifying is going to be a big deal.
It's
especially in EMC. The thing about the 4400 cars, if you're like a Lauren Healy, you can qualify 20th. You're going to be fine. By the time you get to remote pit 1,
Sure.
you're in first place.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to reel them in the desert, right?
Yeah.
You're driving a spaceship that costs as much as a spaceship, right?
Exactly.
But the EMC guys, they're so equal in the desert, and they're so equal out there that I don't think that you're going to have guys who are like, oh, I'll pass 35 cars before remote pit 1. I don't think you're not going to see it in that class.
No.
So to go up there, qualify, even like some of the rookies are up there qualified super slow in that 4800 class. They had like 10, 12-minute times. Yeah, that's not putting them anywhere near the top, but it is putting them halfway up the pack.
Even more than half, probably.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know the statistic of how many qualified out of all of the EMC.
On the list, we had 70. And
70, and how many are registered?
Over 100.
Yeah.
So you're
so you're definitely right there in the half plus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. If
that's just the legends.
yeah.
That doesn't include. There's only the one that surprised me. There's only like 30 modified cars out here.
Really?
4500.
Yeah, the 4500 modified class has gotten super small.
Yeah.
That's a rough race day,
Yeah, and we were talking about that today. We're like, why is that class so small? And I honestly think it's because the 4500s. It's honestly, I think you can build a better car out of a Legends car, probably for less money.
Sure.
And then you get full hydraulic steering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the rub this year for qualifying was that they needed to make sure that they had, mechanical steering.
Legit mechanical steering.
Yeah.
None of this cable stuff or whatever that was kind of...
there was so many little loopholes in that class that's just. But I mean, that's racing, man. That's every class, right?
Yeah.
Like last time I checked, a stock Bronco doesn't have portals on it. But I can't. I guess we can't comment on that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
we'll
saying
edit that out. We'll edit that out.
No, you can leave that in. I don't get paid by Ford at all. But that is just one interesting topic to discuss.
Right? Yes.
I'm driving my stock Ford Bronco with these $10,000 portals on the front end.
Exactly. Well, I know. Yeah, last year when Broncos took over that class, and it's sponsored by Ford, and there was a lot of controversy. But it is what it is.
I think that was a missed opportunity. I think that. Do you remember the days when they had the spec class?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I think King of the Hammers should have said, "Hey, great Ford, let's do a Bronco class."
Yeah.
I think that was a missed up. That would have kept the stock people happy, because it is true. I mean, people like Amber, and I know a bunch of people who just dropped out.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't compete against that Ford. I'm
Yeah.
out. But I think that was a missed opportunity, and King of the Hammers to say, all right, Ford, I understand you want to come in and race. Completely respect that. We're going to make this a spec class.
Right.
And we're going to bring in 10 cars, and we're going to put, just like they used to do in the spec class cars, we're going to put whoever in this car, they're going to go out and race. And
Pick names out of a hat.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing is there's Cameron Steele would not be racing here now if he hadn't first gotten in that spec class car.
Of course.
Back then, they hated this race. They thought it was stupid. All those desert guys, they're like, stupid rock donkeys, made us put a blue light on the back of our cars when we showed up to any desert race because you guys are too slow. You're too slow. We're going to drive over you with our trophy trucks. So they used to make us put a blue light on the back of every car that showed up to a desert race. And now you got Cameron Steele. He loves it out here. He races every class he can get his hands on.
The guy's an animal.
But he would never be here without that spec class. So I think that was probably a missed opportunity. They should have said, great, let's make a spec class out of these Ford Broncos.
Or keep the spec class.
Well, and then they could have, it was hard to, the spec class was a good idea. And I think that's honestly what became the Legends class.
Right.
And I think it was a neat idea, but the upkeep behind it was very difficult because it was basically Dave Cole trying to keep 10 cars running all over the country for anyone who wanted to ride one.
Sure.
Whereas I think they could have just said, hey, let's make the Bronco, anyone who wants to race this brand new Bronco, it's a spec class.
Well,
it's its own class.
Similar-
Leave stock
right.
alone.
Like the IROC Z
Exactly.
races, the
Yep.
Camaros.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
back
that
in the
I honestly
day.
think that was a missed opportunity on Ultra Force part.
That is a great point. Absolutely, I agree with that. That is
All the vehicles are equal. It's all
Yeah.
about the driver now.
Because I honestly think I would love to see him split 4,400. I think they should split 4,400 to single seat and two seats. Iron Man, non-Iron Man. Because then you got to make the decision: do I Ironman this thing? Do I pull a Shannon Campbell? Do I pull a Waylon Campbell? Or do I pull a Bailey Campbell and have a co-driver?
Right.
Like Jason used to do. Jason would run with a co-driver for King of the Hammers. Rest of the year he ran single.
Right.
So then you get like that. It's like when you used to Ironman the 1,000, right? That's a prize, right?
Oh, yeah.
You pull that race all by yourself. So if you we'll do a single seat 4,400 class, and that's the Ironman class. That's all alone in the car. Gomez's.
I mean, you got a lot of top dogs right there.
You would have
that class.
You would have a lot of great people, and then that would also open up the people who aren't competitive with those people.
Okay.
Like the reality is nowadays in Ultra 4 you can't hide money.
No,
it's like Score
you
was in
can't
the
hide
80s.
money.
You can like that. There's a way
great point.
you roll in here. Like look at Gomez last year. Who also showed up brand new car and didn't have new car blues? Well, that's because they put a lot of effort and a lot of time. They did it right.
Oh yeah.
I'll give them credit. They put Joe Thompson in there. They had the right people, the right place, the right support. But that's someone's house that was spent to win this race.
Yeah, you're
That's a
right.
very valid
You're
point.
absolutely
And that's
right.
that's a house in California.
Right.
Yeah,
That's not a house.
not a house in Tennessee.
I mean, that's-
Well, we're getting close
Are
in
you
Tennessee.
getting there? You
Unfortunately,
catching
I'm far enough out of the city that I'm still okay. But yeah, house in Nashville's getting close to a house in California. Unfortunately,
Jeez.
Well, I got a house for sale in California if you want to buy it. Just saying. Oh my god, that is so true though. It is. It's that's an interesting point. So the EMC class, is it still everyman challenge? Is it? This 4,800 class has become so competitive, and you look at guys like our buddy Kevin Jones.
Right.
Ultra 4 Jones. I mean, he's out there all the time and stuff, but. He's on a firefighter budget trying to race King of the Hammers and building a car.
I think 4,800 is still in every man's class.
Yeah.
I really do think it is. I think they when they changed the rules to get rid of the IFS, I think that was a smart decision because that was that's how Vaughn broke in. Vaughn did it right. He came in the sport lower level, but he was bringing an atomic bomb to a knife fight. He shows up with basically an IFS Ultra 4 4,400. Just happens to have one shock. It's okay,
Right.
But I think that 4,800 class, and I think that's why it's so popular.
Yep.
And I think you see people like looking at it going, okay. And also, we used to say the UTV class was a great entry level class.
Yeah.
But have you priced a new UTV lately?
No.
I'm pretty sure you could buy or build a good 4,800 car for the same price as a brand new UTV and then prep it to race.
Well, and
Okay.
some of these UTVs are being raced in the 4,400 class.
Well, the Pro Rs, some of the Pro Rs are legit 4,400 cars.
Yeah,
That's what
no
they are.
shit. I mean-
but I think when you look at it, now the reality is most of these UTVs are honestly still being raced at $249 a month.
Right, exactly.
Oh, you heard it here on Wheeling
I was
Wine
talking to
Whiskey.
that. I was talking about that this morning with a couple people. Exactly, they're financing the UTV and out racing it.
I still say there's like 3 incredibly wealthy silver-haired guys in an office somewhere, and they control that. So it's one guy controls all the UTV market, one guy controls the insurance companies, and one guy controls the finance companies. Because the minute one of those people backs out, it's over.
Right.
It's over. The minute the finance company goes,
Right.
wait a minute, we're not going to let you finance this thing when
For 10 years.
when we have to pay out your first trail ride, because that's what you see. They buy it $249 a month. They're in the dirt and they write it off first trip out, and the insurance full payout.
Well, if they instead of car numbers, they put VIN numbers up on the TV.
There we go. Yeah. Someone needs. There used to be a great. There was that T-shirt for a while. Does the bank know that you're doing this with your Jeep? Someone needs to have like. Does the bank know that you're racing your UTV today?
No
That's
doubt.
so that leads me into one of the questions I had for you. So like we interviewed Paul Wolf a couple weeks ago, and here's a guy that came from UTV, absolutely killing it, steps into the single seat
UFO car.
and just freaking slaying it.
He's my dark horse pick. this
Okay,
year.
so that's exactly it. That's what we talked about a couple podcasts ago. I go, dude, do not rule out Paul Wolf. This guy's
Never.
got blood in his eyes. He's badass, and obviously he can drive. So,
And the more importantly, he's doing the homework.
Yeah.
He's been out. He's in these races. He's going places. He's doing the right thing. I think that. So we always sort of sit down and say, "Oh, who's your pick to win this year?" And
Right.
instead, this year, what I said is, "Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pick a solid axle winner." I'm going
Okay.
to pick a IFS winner.
Okay.
Because every year I think that the course is a solid axle course, and then an IFS car wins. And I'll think it's an IFS course, and Randy wins. Although that's like cheating. Randy will win in anything. But that's just how that works. So this year I'm picking a solid axle car. I'm picking an IFS car, and then I'm picking my dark horse wild card. And
Okay.
Paul's my dark horse wild card.
Paul's your dark horse. So one interesting thing, I was talking to Randy last weekend, and I go, I go, hey, it's an odd year. He's always won on odd years, whatever.
I didn't know
if you're
that.
superstitious,
Look at that. Yep.
So
That's an interesting
threw
stat.
that out there. Last year he had a shit year, as you know, with both 48 and 4400. Stupid little window in the block in the 4800. I don't know, whatever.
That'll ruin your week.
Yeah.
And then torque converter bolts in the 4400 car, but he goes, this is the most prepared I've ever been, and he goes, the course was built with a bomber.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I always say if I had to pick a car to drive out here, it'd be a bomber car, especially in a 4800 car, because you can't pick a better single shot car on the market than Randy's car there, just because they started that way from the beginning, and they really haven't changed that much. They're just extra shocks now.
Yeah.
And he's got the suspension figured out. I'm lucky enough that now I own one, and I absolutely love it. So I do agree with that. I could see what he's saying, and I never rule Randy out. The year that he won, nobody was talking about him because he just came out of nowhere.
Right.
And but that's how Randy wins. So if he wins, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he'll just pop up out of nowhere and come in and win the race. And that was my solid axle pick this year. Honestly, I think someone who's due is actually Eric Miller.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say a Miller car.
Yeah, well, I'm not a Miller car because we had Big B Motorsports a couple years ago. But I think Eric has been out of the hunt for a while. He's kind of been out of the race. I think he's got the benefit also of being the solid axle car because they've got so much rock this year.
A lot of rock.
And I think he's got that rock crawling pedigree. And I think he's due. I think he's due enough that he's probably hungry enough to come out here and lay it down. So if he has a good day, he's my solid axle car winner. And then my IFS car winner is I pick her every year, which is Bailey Campbell.
I
want Bailey to win.
In there.
I want Bailey to win
we would
so bad.
Love to see her win. That would be
How
super
much
cool.
excitement? I mean, this place is always electric on Saturday, 4400 day, but when Bailey was leading, I mean,
She wasn't leading that race. She was dominating that race. She was. We were in the booth doing all the live stream, doing all the split times, and when we're up there announcing, we've got race ops in one ear, they got the live trailer there, and we need to be able to figure out who's going to be in Hammertown when, and get cameras in position and stuff. There was no question Bailey was winning that race.
Yeah.
That she won. She was winning and she wasn't like she was like, oh, she's a minute up. She was a lap up. She was a lap.
Yeah.
She was on lap 3 and she was halfway through the third lap before the second place car started their third lap. Like, she was gone.
Wow.
But you know what else? It was no different when Cameron Steele was coming down King's Graveyard.
Oh.
Yeah.
They had the race in their pocket too.
You're right.
And then that's the only problem with the IFS cars and cars like Lauren Healy's and Cody's Laser Nut car, the one that Cameron drives. Those cars get to the point where if one thing breaks, you're just pulling over and stopping.
Right.
They're spaceships, man, like you said earlier.
Solid axle car, one thing breaks, let's just keep going. Keep going until it stops moving forward.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep going. Whereas with the IFS cars, one thing breaks, you're done, because the catastrophic failure that follows after that is I wrecked a $50 part. Now I wrecked a $50,000 part.
Yeah, and we talked about the simplicity of like a bomber car, racing
man.
this
Keep
race.
it simple, stupid.
It's super great. You got now this live valve
Oh my
shocks,
God, right.
going through, and it's like, okay, and Berger talked about that, and he goes, it's pretty much a game changer, but what if one wire gets severed in the desert? What's the default mode?
Soft.
It goes to soft.
Well, I think we saw that today in qualifying. We saw Jeremy Purick in there in his JL in that stock class, which best thing Jeep ever did was build that 392, because now V8 swaps are 50 stay legal. That's the way I look at it. So super happy with it.
I never considered
super
that.
happy. As soon as I saw it, everyone's like, what do you think the Jeep 392? I'm like, V8 swaps and Wranglers are now 50 state legal. That is a great idea, Jeep. Thank you very much. So I was super excited about it. But we saw him, and he was dominating in that qualifying. He flew up Chocolate Thunder, went around the backside, went up the sand hill, and the thing went into limp mode.
Oh,
Shut down on him. He was
lost all the whoop-hows.
just shut down. And I haven't talked to him yet to see if that's what it was, but he didn't break anything. But he went up that sand hill, all 4 tires spinning, rooster tails everywhere, and got to the top, and the truck just turned off.
Oh, man.
And I don't know if you've been in a JL, but I've wheeled a JL, and I hate it. There's way too many nanny buttons and extra
we call them
things.
latte machines.
We call them latte machines.
I can see that. Yeah. Yep.
Jail latte machines. That's what we call them. Oh gosh, this is great.
We're here on Wheeling Wine and Whiskey. If you're just joining us now, we got Ian Johnson in the studio
Talking about latte.
That's it. That's it.
and drinking bourbon.
Yeah. So, what do you think of our bourbon selection here?
Well, I've
whiskey, I should say.
I worked my way through the Frey Ranch.
Yep.
Very good.
You like the Frey Ranch Rye? Yep.
Yeah,
And that's
see,
100 proof.
So the way I work it is, I look at my bourbon and my whiskey. I look at like the time of year.
Okay.
So when it's cold out, I like rye.
Ooh, love
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a little spicier, a little hotter, kind of warms you up inside a little extra. So I've always liked a little bit of rye, and that Frey Ranch, I've never had it before, and it's really, really good. So now I'm on to the smoke wagon.
Okay.
I just poured myself a cup of that, and so now we're going to work through that next.
Okay. All right.
But we got to get you guys got to come out to Tennessee.
I know. You keep
working
telling
on
me
it.
about this chat whiskey. We can't buy it.
No, it's not this way. And I was gonna bring some.
I know.
I'll figure out a way to get you some. But I really think you just got to come out. We'll go to all the distilleries. We'll do a little tour, do the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, which is new. And then we can pop over and we'll go see Jeff Arnett at Company. We'll go see all the guys at Chat. We'll go see Tim, and we'll get some legit behind the scenes kind of fun stuff.
That sounds good.
Yeah, we'll get you through the top secret back door and all
Okay.
that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
What do
that.
they call that? The back door. What are they?
What do you mean, back door here?
No, the speakeasy.
Speakeasy.
Oh, there's an awesome one. Do you guys ever get to Atlanta?
No.
No.
Well, I've been to Atlanta before.
So
but
Atlanta's got this great bar called the Red Phone Booth. It's a whiskey bar.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
It's all it is. It's a like an English style red classic phone booth on the side of like up against the building.
Okay.
You go in. You have to type in to the phone. The code changes every day. You have to get the code from your hotel. All the big hotels downtown have it. You go in, you dial the phone number, and then the back of the phone booth opens, and you go in.
How
So
cool
it's
is
not
that?
like a Get Smart thing where the floor drops.
No, not a floor drop. No, that'd be a bummer. That'd be pretty cool if it did, though, wouldn't it?
That'd be pretty
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be pretty awesome.
Where'd he go?
These speakeasies are popping up everywhere.
Oh, it's the
even
new-
in Sacramento. Jimmy's been doing
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it's like that's pretty freaking cool. I love going back to Prohibition days and little hidden little Easter eggs.
Feeling
around,
a little
right?
guilty
I get
about
worried-
drinking your bourbon.
I get
know?
worried though that it's like whenever you get like this and everything gets like too mainstream, that all of a sudden it just like gets uncool, and then
Yeah.
we see.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's what happened in the '80s with bourbon. That's why it died.
Happens
Yeah.
with
And
everyone.
everyone's like, we need more tequilas and vodkas and gins and wine coolers, and that was just killed the
Wine coolers.
whiskey and bourbon
James.
industry.
Bottles, that's right.
So
bottles
it kind
of
of worries me, but I think we'll be all right. I think
Yeah, no,
I think
whiskey
whiskey's
and
going to
bourbon
be.
have been around for a long time, I think, and it is kind of trendy and faddish right now. But at the same time, there's some really great tasting out there. I mean, just what I'm seeing on the table right here: Old Elk, Frey Ranch, and Smoke Wagon, and that's just which smoke wagon is that?
That's the rye.
Oh, the rye. I haven't hit that yet, but
You haven't even tried that yet? Well, it's
yet.
almost gone. You better get in there.
Yeah.
no, Ian's hitting it pretty hard.
So what is one of your go-to whiskeys?
In all honesty, it's Chat whiskey.
It is Chat.
And so here's the funny story about Chat whiskey is I met Chat whiskey a long time ago. We did a trip called the Whiskey and Wheeling trip where we all got together,
That's awesome.
hit a bunch of off-road parks and hit a bunch of whiskey distilleries. And that trip came out of I literally was coming back from SEMA. I was on the bus to go to the parking lot to get
Okay.
my car. And this guy leans over and he hands me his business card. And he goes, "Hey, I'm a big fan of your show." And I look down and I look at him, and he's got Jack Daniel's logo on his shirt, Jack Daniel's logo on his belt, Jack Daniel's logo on his boots, Jack Daniel's logo on his pants. And then I look down at the card, and it's like Master Distiller Jack Daniels, Jeff Arnett.
It was Jeff Arnett.
Yeah, Jeff's a
Get
close
the F
friend.
out.
Cool about Jeff. Jeff's a car
my
guy.
God.
So Jeff Arnett. So I'm like, oh, I'm a huge fan of your whiskey. And he's like, anytime you want to come up to the distillery, let me know. We'll hook you up with a private tour. So on the Whiskey and Wheeling trip, we did a private tasting with Jeff, which was amazing because he
my
pulled back the
God.
curtain and just told all the cool stories about Jack. And now he has a new distillery called Company Distilling.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but he was at the shop 2 weeks ago dropping off some fresh bottles because we made a sign for his distillery because they'd
good.
Yeah.
hired some big marketing company to do it, and they literally showed up with like a white sign with blue stickers on it. And he's like, "This really doesn't
I
feel
saw-
like
I saw
feel
your
like it
YouTube channel with that,
feeds
yeah.
feeds our brand." And I'm like,
No.
"I got you." So we made him like a metal sign with blacked out wood on it stuff, and he loved it. So he dropped over and dropped off some whiskey. But he's a great guy. But he's a big car guy.
Yeah.
And so as part of that tour, we went to Chattanooga Whiskey.
Okay.
And at the time, they were just blending. They were buying out of state, bringing it in, and just bottling it up. And but Tim, one of the founders, was like, "Oh, we're gonna be doing some new stuff coming out. I really want to keep you in the loop. We need you to bring down." And he had this great idea, this brilliant marketing idea. He's like, "We got 100 different mash bills that we're gonna bottle and do limited edition, working our way to our new signature." Whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, high malt. It's called high malt whiskey because what they do is they take before they run the mash bill and ferment all the malts. They actually send them out and they get them either malted or toasted or roasted. So they had all these different versions. So they do a different 5 bottles every week, and he'd call me up and he'd come up with a tasting. So I went up 3 or 4 times, and it was always honestly terrible liquor. I would buy the bottle because I felt bad. Oh no! But I'm buying it, and so then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be awful because he's gonna make this whiskey, and it's gonna. I really like Tim. He's a super nice guy, and I really want to like his. And so he calls me up. He goes, "We finally got our signature whiskey. You got to come up and try it."
Okay.
And oh my goodness, this is because the story was we're doing these 100 mash bills. We're working our way towards our signature whiskey. Well, I didn't like any of the ones I tried, and I was like worried. So I roll up there. He drops this. It's called Chat Whiskey 111 proof, Tennessee high malt whiskey. I taste it. It's probably some of the best whiskey I've ever drank in my entire life. And I was like, Tim, I love this, but I just have a question. How did you come up with this after all that garbage that you made me drink for the past year? And he was like, oh, dude, we had this a long time ago. That was just all marketing stuff we were working on.
Oh my God.
He was like, we need to buy some time before we get this out of the barrel. It had to age out a little bit.
Right.
But no, that's honestly my favorite stuff. It really is. It's super good. So that would be right at the top of the list.
Have you ever done blind tasting, whiskey tasting?
I haven't.
Or anything?
No.
Because, see, I love doing that because
fun.
I started out, my whole introduction into, alcohol was like wine.
Yep.
And so we do blind wine tastings. And it really, because people get caught up with labels.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so-and-so, that's, some celebrity said this is the best wine he's ever had. Well, of course, you've already got this pre-notion in your mind, and you're like, oh, this is going to be good, and you taste it, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is great because whatever.
Because it's because it's Silver Oak.
George Clooney said it was good.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And so I started doing that with my friends. And so are you big on wine or anything?
No,
you're not on wine. Anyways, there's some big name labels. I put it out there to some friends. I inferred. I didn't say it was because with wine, older wines, you decant in a glass container, right? A decanter. And so I set a bottle of $2 Chuck, $2 bottle of wine next to it. So it inferred that $2 Chuck was in this glass decanter. Well, I'm sorry, came as special select, but $2 Chuck was in the decanter. So $150 wine was inferred that was in this. So they already had it. Oh, I can't wait. I go, no, we're saving that for dinner, And so I put the decanter on the table, and it's $2 Chuck. It's wine.
Yep.
It's just, we'll leave it at wine.
It's wine.
It's wine. And I got a couple of my wine snob buddies swirling it, sniffing it. Oh my God, this is so good. It's $2 Chuck. They would never drink $2 Chuck, right? But they thought it was this special wine.
It's all psychological, man.
Oh yeah. One of those people still don't talk to me to this day, whatever. Obviously they're fake. But the other one thanked me for opening their mind because they thought they had a palate and they didn't.
Do you know who Marion Barnes is?
No.
So Marion Barnes was one of the first female master distillers outside after Prohibition.
Okay.
She helped relaunch what is now called Castle and Key, which is in the old.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Castle and Key is in the old Taylor building. We actually got in for a tour when it was still under construction.
Okay.
Because we did our whiskey and wheeling tour. The next year we did bourbon and boulders, and so we went up and we were able to get into Castle and Key before Castle and Key was even open. It was literally under construction, but they were making bourbon in it. And she has since left there, but now her big business venture is called Eve's Blind. So it's a subscription service where you get a box with 4 blacked out bottles of bourbon that she has personally selected, and you just taste it and try it and drink it, and then like a month later or a week later you get the actual what you drank.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's genius.
Yeah, and so it's a subscription service, and so she basically signs up for like, oh, here you go. I have X number of boxes available. Order your box now. And then they box it, bottle it, send it out, and it's literally just in a completely blacked out bottle. Black box shows up. You pour it out, you drink it, and then a week later you get a letter saying, okay, bottle A was X.
XYZ.
Bottle B was Y, and it's such a great idea. Just like you're saying, it's true blind tasting.
So that's it. So I took that, wine tasting experience to bourbon because I always like to test myself. It's like, do I really like Old Elk? Do I really like this particular one that my go-tos, right?
Yep.
And when you have it in a plastic cup or whatever, and you don't know what it is, I 100%, when I do the blind tastings, I have somebody else pour everything. I don't want to know. I don't want to see the bottle.
Yep.
Because I could tell by bottle shapes, sizes, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that might be so-and-so, right? So I don't want to have any, clue of to what it is.
Yeah.
And then, so you sit there and now you're relying on your palate and like, yes, this is freaking great. Or, no, I'm not really liking this.
Yeah. Have you done the dark chocolate with your bourbon yet?
Oh, yeah.
That completely changes everything.
So I used to be it's funny you say that because I used to be a milk chocolate guy, and when I started drinking bourbon, I love dark chocolate. And with dark chocolate and bourbon, oh my God.
It's so different.
It is.
I was at Woodford Reserve doing the tasting there, and the guy walks around, he does all the stuff, pours it all out, pours you the stand. There you go, big bottle of Woodford right there. Goes out, pours all the stuff, sets you up with the white dog and the this and the that and all the different versions, the double oaked and all the kind of jazz.
the double oak.
And then he walks around, he sets down this little piece of dark chocolate. And I'm like, what's this dark chocolate for? And he goes through the whole spiel, like I always do, now taste this. And then now take a bite of the dark chocolate and try the bourbon again. You try it again. And I looked at him and I was like, thanks a lot, asshole. And he was like, he looks at me with his face, and I'm like, does my body type look like it needs a reason to eat more chocolate?
Right.
Like right now, I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna have a bottle of bourbon, I'm gonna have a glass of bourbon, I better go get some chocolate.
Gotta get a bar of chocolate, dark chocolate.
I wonder if cake does the same thing.
That's hilarious.
That's freaking good. Holy smokes.
You need to do that. You need to have somebody just pour like 4 or 5
I will definitely try that.
And
yeah.
just do a blind tasting. Just test your palate and just, no good or bad. It's just see what you really like. Because I never liked ryes.
Really?
Never liked ryes, and I hated rye bread. But whatever. In my mind, I'm like, rye
anywhere
bread,
near the
rye
same.
whiskey, I'm out. And then, it's stupid. It's just how the human mind works, or at least my mind. And so I tasted a rye. Somebody poured me. I didn't know what they poured me. I'm like, this is good. What is this? Oh, this is such and such rye. And I'm like, I hate rye, but I like this.
Yeah.
So why did I already have that pre-programmed into my mind that I hate rye?
That's just how you told me.
Right?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought I'd hate cheesecake because why would you want cheese in your cake? Then finally, when I was like 17 or 18 years old, I ate a piece of cheesecake and I was like, it's so good. It's so good. It doesn't taste like cheese at all.
Especially when you put cherries or strawberries on it.
A whole bunch of chocolate.
Or chocolate. Dark chocolate.
So now I'm like gravitating towards ryes, and that's how I discovered Frey Ranch rye, the smoke wagon we're drinking now. I mean, it's cool. And so basically you got to keep an open mind. And what I've always said, because especially in the wine end of things, people are like, oh, well, that's $100 bottle of wine. I got to like it. No. You know what? I'm always looking for the bargains, the $25, $30 bottles that just knock your socks off. And they're out there all the time.
And that's one of the reasons I also think I like Chat Whiskey. That 111, it'll retail out. I think it's like a $40 bottle.
Oh,
it's not an expensive bottle.
Yeah.
But the one thing that also showed me is, and it came from drinking that. And now what I find when I'm looking for bourbons or ryes, I prefer a really high proof liquor.
Really?
Yeah.
I like 110, 116s.
That's your happy spot.
Yeah, I like it better there. To me it just tastes better. It burns a little bit more, like especially the rye. It's real spicy with the rye.
Spice.
Yeah, it's got that
and you
spice.
got the rock in there to water it down a little bit.
Yeah, well, but when I get in there and I get like a an 80 proof or a 90 proof, I don't like it as much. To me, it just doesn't taste as good. But I get that 111, 116, and then I even have a couple bottles because we get in those back doors, those distillers you're talking about.
Right.
We have a couple that we did some favors for a couple of distillery friends, and he was like, "Well, if no one's looking, we'll just pour you a bottle of this uncut." And so it came in at like 138, 140, and that is it. But it tastes. So if you honestly, I think if you're now, you can't drink as much of it. You really not because it's not just for your own safety. It's just because you just physically can't. It's too hard on the body. But if you are drinking, in my opinion, if you're drinking bourbon and whiskey for the taste, and you're drinking it either neat or with a little bit of water or a small ice cube, then that high proof stuff, it just tastes so good.
Well, the good stuff you're not doing shots. You're sipping it, and literally the days of us being in our 20s and just doing shots of Jack Daniels or whatever, those are long gone.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. I tell my son all the time because now he's 21 and he's like, we go out to dinner and I'm like, give me a what do you have? You just go to a restaurant. They're like, well, I got this. Well, give me a Knob Creek wine.
Yeah,
throw a little Knob Creek right in, and he's got like a what's the Jack Fire and Coke? Yeah, right. I'm just like,
Jack Fire and Coke.
Where have I gone wrong?
I'm leaving right now.
That's not good. That's not your son, Ian. That might be the mailman's son.
But when I was his age, when we used to go to the liquor store, it was like it was accuracy by volume, right? It was like, which one of these has a handle? That one has a handle,
right? Like this big old Woodford's right here.
Yep. The one thing, the funny story
Costco,
is,
baby.
you have to make a planned trip up to Canada.
Okay.
Because in Canada, we actually have one size larger than this.
Really? A 1.75 larger than 1.75?
2 liter?
It's actually called a Texas Mickey. It's 1.5 liters of... no, sorry.
No, because it's 1.75.
Yeah, 1.75. So it is twice the size of... So it's like...
3.25.
Yeah, so it's like 3.5 liters of liquor. But this is the part that was the hardest for me to figure out when I moved down here, right? So y'all hate the metric system.
Yeah,
right?
we don't like the metric system.
Because you're Americans are like, screw your metric system. Yeah. But when I moved, in Canada, we like the metric system, except when it comes to our liquor.
Oh wait, so what do you call it?
That's 66 ounces of liquor. That is not 1.0. When I first moved down here, someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to the liquor store. What can I get?" It's like, "Get me a 40 ounce or a Jack," and they're like, "Oh, what?" I'm like,
what's a 40 a Jack?
That's a 750 milliliter, and they're like, "You mean a 750?" I said, "I thought you guys hated the metric system."
Let's start talking like the McKenzie brothers right now.
Oh, there it is.
That might be trademarked. You better stop that.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
So that was the hardest. So when I first moved down here, I was shocked because I was like, "Wait a minute, why are you buying 750 milliliters of liquor? You mean 40 ounces?" They're like, "What do you?" And I'm like, "A Mickey, 9 ounce, a 9 ounce." They're like, "What's a Mickey?" And I'm like, Oh my God. So we have in Canada, and so when you tour Jack Daniels, I actually tell you about those. Say that if you want the largest bottle of Jack Daniels actually sold in Canada, it's called the Texas Mickey. It's 140 ounces of Jack Daniels.
Oh my gosh.
But the best part is all it is it's the 750 bottle blown up.
Okay.
The neck is like an inch around, and it's like a foot and a half off the floor. It looks like those perfume bottles that are on display,
right?
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's 1.75.
So it's like 2 of those.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, I'm going to get my Jack Daniels from Canada now.
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't want to, because that's our other misconception. Canadians love to drink, but like that, it's super expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I tell people all the time, a 2-4 a beer, which is a case, 24 beer.
Yeah.
That's like $60.
What?
Yeah, out of the beer store.
Canadian dollars.
So that's like $40 American.
That's still ludicrous.
It's crazy. When the first time I had a friend come down to Moab with me from Canada, my brain had, by that time, had been in America long enough, I'd forgotten all about these Canadian liquor and beer prices. Mm-hmm. And we're walking through the grocery store in Moab, and he walks by and he sees a 30-pack of Coors Light for like $14.99.
Right.
And he looks at me and he goes, he's like, "Is that a sale?" And I'm like, "No, I think that's regular price, man."
Right.
And we head up to the cash, and I turn around and I see him coming, and he's got 4 of them coming on,
I'm taking these
and he's like, "Bullshit! This isn't a sale. I'm buying all these." And I'm like, "Dude, we can come back." And he goes, "No, you're full of shit. This is not. These are on sale. There's no way that I can buy 30 Coors Light for $14.
It's a good deal, eh?
He drank them all though. Drank every single one of them.
Well,
pounded them all back in a week.
It is funny from different, areas of our country, and it's like I traveled Europe. I got a fortunate trip to travel Europe.
Oh, this is a great
And
story.
we were, drinking all these great wines, Italian wines and stuff in Italy, and they were dirt cheap, right? That we would pay a
cheaper than the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cheaper than the water, pay ridiculous for in U.S. And the end of our trip, we end up in Frankfurt Airport, I don't know, whatever the hotel was there that we were staying at. And I go, I want a Jack and Coke. I haven't had Jack Daniels.
Little taste
in a
of
while.
America.
Yeah,
I want a
taste
Jack
of
and
home.
Coke.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll take a double Jack and Coke. That was a $40 freaking Jack and
Yep.
Coke. And we get the bill, and we're like, holy
America.
crap. I'm like, oh, yeah, Jackson import.
That's an
here, you
import. Yep.
dumbass.
I could actually top that. We used to always go to Cuba as
Okay.
Canadians. That was your
you
cheap
could- you could
cheap
do that.
vacation because we could do
Okay.
it. So when we were all growing up, that's the cheap vacation. So when I was a mechanic, it would always slow down around December, January at the time the dealership would get slow. And I was the only guy at our dealership that didn't have a wife and kids and a family to support. So I would go to the service manager and I would just say, hey, are you laying someone off for December and January? And he'd say, yeah, we gotta clean out the shop a little bit,
Sure.
make room. And I would say, lay me off, man. I'll go on unemployment. I said, just as long as you promise to hire me back in March.
Okay.
And he'd say, yeah, you're back in March. No question asked. Put your toolbox in storage in the back and you're fine. And then I'd call my buddy who was a bricklayer. Everybody's a carpenter. I'd do the same thing. We'd go, get
Right.
laid off, man. We're going to Cuba.
We're going to Cuba.
And we would go to Cuba.
Hang on, Havana.
We stayed in Veradero, so we'd get $500 for 2 weeks, all inclusive in Cuba. Is what it cost. Used to cost us. This was back in like 91, 92,
Oh
90,
my
actually 94,
God.
95. So it was $500 all inclusive. Fly down there, but we would go to we used to go downtown Havana. You could buy a bottle of rum for 15 cents.
15 cents. So 750 milliliter bottle.
15 cents US. Now, if you wanted a 6-pack of Coke to go with it, each Coke was $3.
Oh, my gosh.
3 times 6. $18 for
For a
18 bucks.
6-pack of Coke. Now the rum was 15 cents a bottle.
Fuck.
Now there was no cork in it. It had this little paper hat on the top. It was hilarious. But yeah, that and cigars. We used to. You were allowed to bring back X number of bottles
Right,
of
and then
rum
cigars.
and then two boxes
Yeah.
of cigars. We used to. I think the statutes of limitations are out of this, so I'll be
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
We used to bring the cigars back into Canada. And then we would drive from Ontario down to New York State, sell the cigars to the cigar shops to pay for the next trip to Cuba.
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
shit.
Because a box of Monte Cristo number 4s
Yeah.
were like $300.
Oh, shit.
Monte Cristo number 4 straight from Havana? Are you kidding
I
me?
actually had a
Cuba.
Monte Cristo. I'm not sure it's a number 4. But
Yeah, we used to go in there. We'd show up at the resort. You could buy it like at the airport for like $45, or we would bring. I actually got in the hookup with all the local mechanics in Havana, and I would bring back a suitcase full of GM points, distributor caps, spark plugs because they couldn't get them because of embargoes.
Wow.
Couldn't get the parts.
Oh, right.
So that's why that car culture stops in like 1950, whatever. It's the Bay of Pigs, right? Just stops.
right.
And so they had all these classic cars and they couldn't get parts. And so the first year we went down, we took soap and socks and all this kind of stuff because it's a communist country. They don't get that kind of. They can't pick
right.
their own stuff.
Fidel
And then
Castro.
and so then I was talking to one of the maids and she and I said, "What should I bring next time?" And she goes, "Well, do you know what a points are for a distributor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a mechanic."
You
And
gotta be
And she goes,
kidding
"Oh,
me.
you need
Do
to
you
meet
know
my
who I
husband."
am?
She goes, "You need to meet my husband."
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so I was like, "Let's go meet your husband." So we went to downtown Havana, met the husband. They were literally making taillights out of. They would take Toyota Corolla taillights, melt them down to fit like a '57 Chevy. It was crazy. And so I went back the next year with a suitcase full of car parts and came back with a suitcase full of cigars.
Right
We just
on.
trade them back and forth. It was great.
has this
Right
ever
on.
been aired before?
I don't think we ever talked
No,
about that before.
no.
No.
Oh, this is gold, dude.
So good.
Oh, fuck.
I love this.
Yeah, that was how and it was so, and we probably may have contributed to the number of people leaving Cuba because we would all roll down there, right? And then you'd be sitting at the resort and people are like, "What do you do?" And we're like, "Well, I'm a mechanic, but right now I'm not working." And they'd be like, "Oh, you're not working?" No, but the government sends me a check. because we'd be on unemployment. And this is all pre-computers, right? So my mom used to take my unemployment cards. You had to fill them out by hand. Are you looking for work? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Are you ready and able to work? Yes. She would fill those cards out, drop them in the mail, and then I'd get my check for like $500, and then they'd put it in my bank account. Then I'd go downtown to Havana, do Western Union, cash that check, live off that for the next month and a half. Yeah, it was great. It's great. Did it all the time. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You heard it first here on Wheeling Wine Whiskey.
Yep. Those are the old days, though. I don't think you can do that anymore.
Isn't it funny how things change? And it's like, what was... it's even here at the Hammers. I mean, stuff that went on in the past and now. Well, I don't know. This is kind of the Wild West.
Well, the good old days. I mean, the good old days for me started in 2016. But
2016?
Yeah, well, that was my first time I came to King of the Hammers. I checked on that because I have a sticker on the windshield of my truck still.
Oh, really?
But you're right. I when we were out here racing in 2009, 2010, we used to make fun of Jason Shira for exercising.
Oh yeah,
because the day before the race, we're getting hammered at the campfire. Well, we're gonna race tomorrow. Let's get drunk.
Yeah,
and that's what it was. And then we'd see Jason out in the morning, like jogging. We're like, look at that nerd out there. And yet he was the guy who's actually taking this shit seriously, and he's still racing.
And you saw the picture Berger posted, right, CrossFit Sally, of him up on the rock with his shirt off and like sunbathing.
Yep.
But it has so evolved from like rec wheeling on a little bit notch higher to like full on.
Well,
this is professional
stock Jeeps on air shocks.
Yeah, we used the deal was in 2009, 2010. The goal was you'd get the race was like 100 miles.
Right.
Everyone would just drive to mile 90 and then race.
Yeah.
Because there was no way you were racing the first 90 miles or your car would break in half.
Yeah.
Literally break in half. Yeah. And so it was literally just a trail ride.
Sympathy.
Yeah, it was a trail ride to race mile 90, and then it was like, all right, let's see who can make it back into town.
The fastest
and
ones.
And now you're racing. It's a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a 300-mile sprint. And you have to have the best of the best. You have to be ready to go. And you yourself have to be in the best shape as well. I mean, these guys but they take it seriously. And that's the Laurens always it's a job.
It's a business.
It's a job for them.
Now.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like even the right seats. I mean, people are like, "Oh, you're just riding in the car." No, you need to be fit. You're going to throw up if you haven't done this before,
or if you've eaten a giant meal the night before, or whatever.
Well, that's it.
Or a big bottle of Woodford.
Yeah. How about that? And that's it. And it's just it's cool to see it evolve like that. And that we talked about this with Berger a couple podcasts ago. It was like, we got Ford sponsoring us. We have to be professional.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're not.
There's no
the
Coors Light
drunken
in
wreck
the pit.
wheelers. That we, most of us are, or whatever. But it's just like we got a professional image to.
We're still at a ceiling though. We're still in a ceiling, and that's just going to happen. And it's. I don't know. I think I know what has to break it, but I don't know if Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers is there. I think we're right up against it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people all the time, like, people always tell me all the time, "Oh, TV's dead. Screw TV. We don't have TV anymore." And I'm like, do you think Americans would know anything about Formula One if it wasn't for Drive to Survive on Netflix? That has basically doubled the viewership of every Formula One race in the country, let alone the world, but from one TV show. And I think that's the one thing. The live stream's great. We do really well with it, but the marketing and media. We have Progressive in here sponsoring, which is good.
Yeah.
When you get companies like Coca-Cola, Tide, that's when the tides have changed.
Yeah.
And but that's all off-road racing. That's no different than desert racing and Score.
Right.
They're not there either. And it's just we haven't broken that ceiling yet.
Right.
Well, is it because the perception is we're just a bunch of rednecks hanging out in the woods or the desert?
No, it's all eyeballs. It's 100% eyeballs. It's at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, I do talks with people all the time about the business of media. At the end of the day, it's all eyeballs. And the number of eyeballs haven't changed. They've just changed where you see them. And there's more people in the United States than there were 20 years ago, except 20 years ago, there was only 3 television channels. Now there's 300 television channels, 16 streaming services, YouTube, social media. They're all still there. You just have to have a concentrated strategy to get to them to see it. And so what you see is the heavy hitters in the marketing world, they're still working on how to navigate that world. And they're getting there. And that's just what it boils down to.
The formula is always changing, right? I mean, the internet's been a game changer for a lot of people.
It has, but at the end of the day, it's still just finding people, putting content in front of people. That's all it is. Yeah.
Good content.
Well, yes and no. It's weird. You have to be able to play the game of understanding when do you need good content, when can you get away with bad content.
Well, I mean, look at TikTok. People getting kicked in the balls seems to be funnier than hell.
But you know what?
That's always funny.
I rewatched Idiocracy a few weeks ago. It hits a little too close to home now.
That is a great freaking movie.
You mean documentary?
The documentary, yeah.
President Camacho.
You guys are watering this stuff with sports drinks?
It's got what crops want, man. It's got what crops want. No, it's interesting. I think it's just a matter of once we get to the point where there's enough eyeballs watching, that's when the big money sponsors will come. But then that's when the next question comes: do you really want it to happen? That's the other thing you really need to decide.
Right.
Is do you want Ultra 4 to turn into NASCAR or not? And because if it does, or Formula One, because if it does, that's a completely different animal.
So
that we're looking at.
What happens with that at that stage is we are no longer allowed in the pits. I mean, media can
You're
go
not,
in the pits,
and it's not $100 to show up on the lake.
No,
Right,
it's not $100, and that's what we've talked about. That is it headed that way? And when Ford sponsorship came on board 2 years ago, whatever it was,
Yeah, two years.
that
ago.
was my biggest concern, and we talked about it on the podcast. I'm like, I don't want this to go to NASCAR. I don't want this to be Formula One, because I love that Joe Blow, Breck Wheeler can come to Johnson Valley during King of the Hammers and walk to their favorite driver's pit. And have a conversation with them.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what? Big racing is still like that. Is NHRA.
Yeah.
And the difference, but I think the difference between NASCAR and NHRA is what is the difference between Ultra 4 racing and any other. We're in the same boat as NHRA. We have a bunch of classes.
Yes.
NHRA has a whole bunch of classes.
Yep.
Like, yeah, you're not going to go high five John Force.
No.
But you might see a couple of other guys out there racing that are lower classes, maybe Super Gas, Super Comp, Super Rail,
Right.
all that stuff, and you'll get to know those guys and you can follow them. And I think it's the same as like, but it's just like monster trucks, right? The monster trucks, no one cares who drives them. It's the grave digger. It's the
Yeah.
Redfoot. You know that's the other side of the coin. Do you want it to go like, oh, that's the rock bouncer world? I tell people all the
Yeah.
time, rock bouncer world is like monster trucks. Ultra 4 is like Score.
Yeah.
that's the
Oh,
two
yeah,
difference.
that's
the best way to look at it.
That's a great
Yeah,
analogy.
because that's what they are. Everyone, they all know. I know, Screaming Blue. That's that's so and so's car, or
Right.
the Freaky Hornet, or 'cause that's
Freaky Hornet.
That's what they do. They've all got the craziness, but they're basically monster trucks, is what they are.
Right.
Versus, Score is like professional drivers. I think what needs to happen is I think we need to see. And I think it's happening slowly, but you've got like the Von Gittens and the Lauren Healy's. When we get more of the fans, this is my favorite driver.
Right.
That's the bridge you got to cross, right? I know, like those of us who are diehard fans, we know who Lauren Healy are. We know who Jason
Shannon
Sherry
Campbell.
is. Yeah, Shannon
Yeah.
Campbell's. We know, but it's when you get out of our world and then people will be able to recognize them. That's when you've crossed that bridge over into mainstream.
Okay.
And I don't think we're there yet. I don't know if we'll get there.
How does that happen?
It's just like I said before. It's all eyeballs. It's all eyeballs. It has to be
So
like
it needs to be on ABC or NBC or
no. I just think it needs like to me. I think Vaughn and Lauren are the two that have the best chance of doing it because Vaughn was very smart to partner with Lauren.
Sure.
Lauren, great driver.
fun haver.
Yeah, but here's the difference, and this is the perfect example. So last year, was it last year or the year before? I think it was Vaughn broke in remote pit 1. I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years
So
ago.
yeah, Vaughn's up, broken in remote pit 1. Lauren's on racetrack. We're watching him on the live stream, and we look down, and the minute he breaks, Vaughn gets out and starts live streaming from remote pit 1
Right.
onto his Instagram account. Right? And I'm watching it, and I'm like, is he live streaming? Fire up my phone, go to his Instagram account. Sure enough, yeah, there's Vaughn. He's live streaming from remote pit 1 while they fix his car. And I told Lauren that story. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I'd be fixing the car. That's the difference between Vaughn and Lauren.
Right.
But the two of them together make a great race car driver.
Oh, hell yeah.
They are a Bubba Wallace of Ultra 4. Like Bubba Wallace is super recognizable outside the sport, very recognizable inside the sport. You take Vaughn and Lauren together, and you have that in one driver. The minute someone shows up who is both Vaughn and Lauren in one person,
Right.
that's when that changes.
Oh shit. Well, when we were at Prairie City, what's up?
No, go ahead.
When we were at Prairie City last May for the what's that, the roundup or the
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously Lauren Healy won that race, and we were up there kind of wandering around the stage, and after Pam Hall had walked away and I'd done the congratulations speech and whatnot, I walked up to Lauren and gave him shook his hand and said, "So that was one of the funnest finishes I've ever seen in a race. These short track Ultra 4 races are just a hoot. I mean, I know it's kind of a whole different world than the long track, King of the Hammers type endurance stuff. But man, you combine those two worlds and you have some seriously exciting shit.
It is cool. The short course, but that's all a short course. Short course is it's fun to watch. If you watch any of the gas stuff that's going on in town yesterday, there's a lot of cool stuff in short course. The problem with short course is it seems to have like this, it comes out of the gate, a big bang. We saw it with Core, we saw it with Torque, we saw it with all these series that start up. They blow up like crazy, and then people almost just get bored of it. And they're just like, yeah, I'm out.
Well, it's all or nothing, right? I mean, throw everything into the wind. I mean, I like the short course, but I also like the long endurance stuff. So I think having a mix of both is important to the sport.
I think it is, but I think it was I don't know if it was Randy or Eric said it best. No one remembers who the national championship is, but everyone knows who won King of the Hammers.
Right, exactly.
That's all that matters,
Truth.
and that's the truth. I mean, the reality is as cool as that short course stuff is, as cool as all that Ultra Force Series stuff is, at the end of the day, no one cares who the North champion, East champion. No one gives a shit.
No, who won the King of the Hammers?
Who won King of the Hammers?
Yeah.
That's the question. That's it. Yeah,
it is. It's the Super Bowl. Going back a little bit, because I know you're a big fan of Amber's, and talking about Von Gittin live streaming from the pit.
We're talking about Amber Turner?
Amber Turner.
The woman that just popped her head in the door?
Did she pop in? Is she here? She isn't.
She popped her head around the corner.
So I got to say, they were, Suzuki Samurai bombing through the desert at 40, 50 miles an hour.
I'm going to go track her down.
And they were live streaming. They were on Instagram Live the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sitting here and Amber Turner just went live, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're in the middle of a race right now. I mean,
she's in a Suzuki. She's okay.
Is that?
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about the picking of the winners. My pick winner for stock class. I want Amber to win.
Oh my god,
I want her to win so bad.
Yes.
It's just, and I think that's. I know it's not going to happen.
Right.
As long as there's a Bronco that leaves the line and doesn't blow up. If any of those Broncos are running in that second lap, she's not going to win. But the effort that she's put into keeping that Suzuki, keeping that grassroots, the Suzuki is not the best choice.
It's the worst choice of a vehicle out on the lake bed. We all know that.
She has committed to that so much so. Like, the reality is she's working at Bomber Fab.
Yeah.
She should be in a 4800 Legends car.
Exactly.
But she's still in that Zook, and I think that's awesome to see her doing that. And I would love to see her, if not win, finish.
Yes.
Come in the time frame and get her across the finish line.
We want her to finish, or at least get in the rock section or something. So that's what we always talked about. And so this year, obviously, I think this is her 4th year racing and working at Bomber Fab. And Randy, I don't know if you follow her IG and stuff, but Randy, showed her all this suspension
I did,
stuff.
yeah. I saw her completely cut up that car.
Yeah,
and redo
exactly.
It. Yeah.
And so they have all brand new suspension. And she goes, now my motor's my limit, which we all knew, right?
Yep.
The all 60 horsepower that she has. But I'm like, oh, hee, look at
There's Amber. And she's got work gloves on.
She's got blue gloves on.
Working on her car.
A little afraid of what's going on.
So let's talk about why do you have work gloves on?
Yeah, what are you
What's
doing?
wrong with the
I
car?
was putting my shocks back on. I just took them down to King and got them revolved again, and I'm going to go out and get them charged and then take them out tuning again.
So here's the question. What? So you didn't qualify? Is that because of the big sandhill?
Oh, I don't have to.
You're just not.
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's Chocolate Thunder. I was afraid if I started and they let someone else off the line, I'd get run over. So
you just opted for no, huh?
correct. I've never qualified, so all the samurais all start in the back.
I saw that.
So
yeah, I saw you posted. We were just wondering that because I was like, "Where's Amber? I want her to see her qualified. That it's gonna be so much fun." But so how's the car? Is it ready to rock? You ready to roll?
Pretty much, yeah. We did a whole bunch of work to it today. I told everyone it'd be down for maintenance, and it was. And then tomorrow we'll be out pre-running again. And Thursday's contingency. Got to check out that sandhill again after Thursday because.
What'd you air down to?
0.
So I met you yesterday at the bottom of Big Johnson, right? Is that where we were? Right
Yeah.
at the entrance to Thor's Hammer, bottom of Big Johnson. And your tire, you were sitting on your rims.
Yeah, I was standing on my tire and they were collapsing onto the wheel, and I was like, "Oh, that's not enough air pressure."
And you're like, "Oh, I'm waiting for Dave to air me back up." I'm like, "I got air and an air truck. Let's get you air back." And you aired up back up to 11 or 12, whatever.
10, yeah.
10.
Yeah, because I took all the air out to do the sand hill. I didn't mean to take all the air out, but I took all the air out. And then you go over that ridge there, and I had to go super slow because I didn't want to square up a tire. And then I get to the bottom, I'm like, well, I can't go very fast with no air in my tires.
So I aired her back up, and you went and ran more rock trails.
So our strategy.
But you made it up the sand hill in your Samurai, which I think is super impressive.
That is super awesome.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. That's super good stuff.
It was fun. Like, we got all the samurais together at once, pretty much. And
I saw that post.
Yeah, we were all shooting at it, and we all had different strategies to get up. And then eventually, Callan made it. He was the first one, and then we're like, all right.
There were so many 4800s that did not make it up that sand hill today.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was a combination of, it was a combination of a bunch of things. It was a combination of, ironically, the guys that made it up wrecked their tires on Chocolate Thunder. So if you cut a tire on Chocolate Thunder, you were hitting that sand hill with 0 PSI in a couple tires. They had no problem with sand hill. The guys who were at like 25, 30 PSI, we saw them. There was a couple guys who boiled their car down. You could just see it was getting so hot. They just pull over and wait, pull over and park. But you should fast time qualifying stock class was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I heard that.
Actually, I think somebody may have come in at the very least. You know what? Did you go up and watch any of it? At the very least, you would have felt good when we saw all of a sudden all the stock classes were lining up to qualify, and then all of a sudden we look out and we see Lauren Healy. And we're like, why is Lauren Healy here?
I heard.
He's Power Hour. What's he doing here? And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to winch in Power Hour. And we're like, really? And they were like, they rolled up and winched it. And they're like, there's no way we're making it up it. They could not run that course. They had to winch it up.
No kidding.
And broke the winch line.
No.
They almost DNF'd their qualifying run because they're trying to winch it, broke a winch line trying to get up through that section.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So it was. So I think you would have probably embarrassed a few people with your Samurai out there, Amber.
Last time I tried Chocolate Thunder, I went over backwards, so I don't know about embarrassing anybody but myself.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, this is freaking great. I gotta ask you, Ian, un-KOH related, but you've built a lot of cars over the years, and my dad was a car builder and stuff, and there's always that one that you sold that you didn't want to sell or you wish you had it back. Is there anything like that with you?
I say no, but there's one.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate. I have my first car. So I have a 74 Volkswagen Beetle. It's a Cal Custom. Yeah, so I still have that car. Well, I sold it. My wife found it, bought it.
How cool is that to buy it back? And there's every car builder, car guy has a story like that.
Yeah.
They sold a car that they wish they didn't, and they got it back.
Yeah. So I have that car back, and I bought that when I was 15 years old. So I'm finally getting it all back 100%. I've driven it. When I got it back, I put it together, drove for a few years, and then I took it apart to build the car that I always wanted when I was 16 years old, right? And then got the job on TV, so I had to abandon it. And then when my wife bought it back, I drove it, and then we took it apart, and I got the job on TV, so we left it in Canada. And then when my son turned 16, I went up there and got it, brought it down. We thought about maybe giving it to him for his first car, but then we decided not to. He ended up with a different first car. But now it's I'm turning 50 this year. So now that car's been in my life for 35 years. So it's this year we're finishing that car and I'm going to drive it again. But the one that got away, I had a square body S10 Blazer. So the little S10 small square Blazers. Yeah, 2-wheel drive. Because I started life as a pro street car builder. That was my gig, right, before I got into off-road stuff. And it was a pro street, small block swapped, and this was back in the days of audio. So it had 8 15s in the back. And it was just a 815s.
That is so good.
Yeah. And so the thing I loved about SEMA this year is I went to SEMA and audio's back. So all these mini trucks are there with all these crazy subs and cab cuts and all this stuff that we haven't seen since the 80s and the 90s. So audio's coming back, which I think is super cool.
So that's funny you mentioned that. So you're a year younger than me. I had an 89 F-150 pickup that I bought brand new for $13,000 lawnmower money. I mowed lawns to
He
buy
still
this truck.
has it.
I still have it.
Good for you.
But anyways, so growing up in the same area and the audio thing, I'm an audiophile. I listen to music. I hardly watch TV, but I love music. And so I had two 12s. I built this box, two 12s with, the highs, and I had 14 speakers in my F-150 single cab pickup.
Oh my God!
With Alpine amps, I had 6 Alpine amps under the seat. I mean, this audio quality was intense.
Yep.
It was super audiophile on high.
It's actually amazing he can actually hear.
And it had a pull-out. You remember the pull-out decks?
Oh, you
didn't get stolen?
Yeah, you were no one. If you weren't walking through the mall,
Exactly, with your
in your stereo. Oh, and then you remember when we upgraded to the removable face? It's like, you have a slide-out radio? Oh, I have a removable face.
Yeah, poor
Amber's
Amber
over
has
here
no
looking at us
She's
like,
looking at us like, you fucking old fuck.
yeah. Bye, Amber. Good luck.
We'll see you later, Amber. Thanks for coming on.
So
Amber's out.
the funny story about that is when my son was growing up, he was like young, right? And he wanted to go see a movie, right? And he's like, I want to go see Real Steel. Do you remember that movie?
With
and I was like, no, can't go see that movie until you see the original Real Steel. And he's like, what's the original Real Steel? I'm like, Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
Right,
So we
yes.
went on this kick of making my son watch all these like 80s movies, Terminator, and the questions he would ask would dumbfound nowadays. He's like, why don't they just call for help on their cell phone?
Right. Oh no, we didn't have cell phones.
Stupid question.
Cell phone, son.
There are no cell
Yeah,
phones.
I'm like, let me explain to you how you used to find your friends. You got in your car. You drove to the arcade.
Right.
You
And then
cruised.
You'd walk around and be like, hey, have anyone seen Shelley?
Yeah.
No, where would she? I heard she's out at the moon tower. And you drove to the moon tower. You fucking you would spend all night looking for one person. That was your life.
So funny.
You're absolutely correct. I
Did
mean,
you guys do any cruising?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so cruising.
I was a member of the Smiths Falls, Ontario Rolling Thunder Street Machines Car Club.
And what car did you roll with that?
I had my 74 Volkswagen Beetle.
nice.
It's a Cal Custom Bug, so it was slammed down. My grade 11 shop project was building the motor. So it was a 1641, dual Del Ortos on it, lowered front beam, hammered it down, full moon discs all the way around. That car was kind of fun. It was a 1641, but we used to real drag race back then, 1320, not this fucking 8-mile shit. And so we'd go out to
Quarter
Quebec.
mile, baby.
We'd go to Quebec and we'd race, and that bug, I could eat up a 5-liter Mustang because they'd fight for traction.
The 5.0.
The bug just went.
Yeah.
Because it had all the weight in the
All the
back.
weight right on top of the
Yep.
drive
And if-
tires.
If you just treated it like a bad kid, man, it would just go. And it would just fly.
Just
and
beat it like a redheaded
you'd
stepchild.
come out of the trap at the top end like 110 miles an hour. It's scary as all get out. Coming out at 110, but yeah, all day long. That car was great. Rolling
great
Thunder
is
Street
that?
Machines. Yep. Then I got my first Jeep, then it was all downhill from there.
Oh, there you
Isn't
go.
it funny? So, I've always said this. It's like I've always been a car person or a gearhead, right? It's like, I don't care. It's got an engine and wheels. I'm all about it. Lowrider, freaking, Harley, whatever, four-wheeler, whatever your jam is, you can appreciate, the sport. And if you're a mechanical guy and you go, okay, it's got an engine and wheels, but you're going over freaking boulders here at KOH at freaking ridiculous speeds. And, and then, you got a guy that's a Harley guy, but it's all gearhead stuff, right?
Yeah, all car people love all car
Yeah,
people. And that's
exactly.
just, we started filming. The thing that blew my mind the most was we started filming Carcraft TV for Motor Trend this year in our studios. So we have the studios. We film a bunch of different shows, not just shows that I'm on, but we have the ability to do shows for everybody. So we helped launch Carcraft TV this year. And so we had a lot of car guys. We were doing a 72 Challenger with a Hellcat swap in it.
Holy smokes.
And so we brought in the host for Carcraft, which was the editor of Hot Rod.
Okay.
And then we paired him with another co-host, Kevin Tates, who's a pretty well-known painter guy. And he's local to us. And we shot the show. And the part that blew my mind was they put a TKX 5-speed in it because that was the new Tremec swap is this 5-speed because it fits in the Mopar tunnel. That's the story behind it, right? They go and they bolt it up. And they get the cross member out of the kit that comes for the swap. It's a kit. Here's all the parts you need to make this fit. And he slides the cross member up in there on camera, and the host looks at me and he goes, "Oh my God, it doesn't fit." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't fit. Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, right?
And he goes, well, should we get on the phone and call the company and ask for a new cross member? And I was like, no, I have this machine over here that turns metal into any part that you want. It's called a CNC plasma table. The crazy thing is for them, that was just so foreign. It was. I was like, oh, you want a cross member? Cross member for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And bing, bang, boom, new cross member's out. And they're like, this is so cool. And I'm like, this is what we do every single day. It's just like, this thing doesn't fit, cut up a bunch of metal, make it fit.
Right.
It's just how it works,
So that brings up a good point. And, you look at you've got some really cool modern technology in your shop, but you're still old school a little bit. And I love that. But you look at Shannon Campbell, if you follow Shannon Campbell, and he's doing stuff, CAD, cardboard aided design, right?
Yep.
I mean, Shannon, that's how I grew up with my dad, and he's a machinist and stuff, but it was like you didn't have the CNC anything. My dad hated a cell phone. I got him a cell phone. It was a flip cell phone, and the funniest thing was, when it was rainy day and the weather came up, and he goes, there was windshield wipers on my flip phone when I flipped it up because it was raining that day. That was amazing to him, right? He was totally foreign to this technology. But you look at the Shannon Campbells that are building stuff old school, and then you with a CNC, plasma cutter and stuff, and you could just go in there and type in and get your part. And I'm watching your YouTube videos with you just cutting out parts for your bomber and stuff. And I'm like, how cool is this? How it's gone? Because you grew up with the old school, but yet you're getting modern. You're staying relevant. And it's just... It's fun to watch that transition.
Yeah, I fought the CNC. I was against it. I really was, because I was kind of like Shannon. I was like, no, I only build one-offs.
Yeah.
I never build anything twice. I don't need a CNC table, because that's the argument, right? Oh, you want a CNC table for repeatability.
Right.
Now I can build 100 brackets. I'm like, I don't need 100 brackets. I
don't.
One.
I need one.
Yeah. So I need one bracket that fits this tube, right?
Right.
And so I was like, I fought it. And it was really Russ from Fast Cut. When I met him at FabTech one year, we just sat down and talked, and he's a fellow Canadian. He's from up in British Columbia. And he's like, listen, dude, we're putting a table in your shop. I really want you to try it. He goes, here's what we're going to do. We'll put it there for a year. If you don't use it, we'll pull it out. I'll sell it to someone in Tennessee. No hard feelings. We'll just work it out. We'll see what it does.
Okay.
He goes, but I'm telling you, once you get over the learning curve of using the CNC software, you're really, really, really going to love it. And he was right. I don't cut anything without... I put a set of Motobuilt trailer fenders on my trailer. And the filler panel that goes on those Motobuilt trailer fenders was 3 inches too high. So I literally had to cut a 3-inch straight line down the side of this fender. And I was like, well, I can get out the T-square and the hand plasma.
Yeah, right.
Or I can drop it on the table and press one
And
fucking
just done.
button.
Boom.
Yeah, and it's
How
just
crazy
and
is
I'm just
that?
like, you know what? And that's kind of where I'm at now. And but I'm with you. I love, and I get so many tips and tricks from watching Shannon build that Jeep.
Right.
And I'll text him. I'll be like, what size bandsaw blade? Because I'm watching you. I tried doing that shit on a bandsaw. I can't get anywhere close to that. And he's like, oh, you need this bandsaw blade, this width blade with this. And I'm like, thank you. I'm gonna go on Amazon and buy 5 of them, because that. And then his brake line bracket.
I know.
All kinds of,
Just a little.
The cool thing I like about watching Shannon do that, and this is one thing, and I've now kind of tried to do this myself a little bit more after watching that, is the fancy tools, what they buy you is time.
Right.
The reality is, I mean,
Right.
you can hand cut a bracket with a hand plasma and grind it and shape it and make it look just as good as any CNC. But the CNC table buys me back the 4 hours that would have taken.
No doubt.
But the one thing that I do like watching Shannon is, before watching him do those videos on that Jeep build, every time I needed a battery box, I did the same thing that everyone did. Jump on Barnes 4-wheel drive, jump on Artec, order my battery box.
Right.
I'm watching him do that, and I'm like, why am I doing that? I can build I got
can
angle
make that.
iron.
Yeah.
I got angle iron and some flat plate. And it'll take me an hour. But that battery box is now $100 and some odd.
Right.
So I'm looking at that. I'm like, all right, so that's $100. Or it's going to take me an hour. Screw
What's
it.
your time?
I'll build my own.
Yeah.
I'll knock it out. And then the other nice thing about CNC is now I have that file. It's done.
Exactly.
Once you build it once, it's
Your
done.
buddy's like, hey, I want that bracket that you just built. I got this.
And that was and that only comes from watching Shannon do that Jeep build. But it is like watching him do that.
So who's that Jeep for? Do you know?
I do. He told me it's Ultra 4 racer.
It's California plated, dude.
No, it's a racer.
I heard
it's
who
his,
it's for.
It's his family Jeep, but I'd have to dig through my text messages. To
Okay,
remember who it was.
so you're verifying what I heard.
Yeah.
I thought it was his rig, but
I thought it was too, but
No,
no,
it's
I
got
asked him. He
C
said, no,
plates.
it's a
okay,
customer
I know
build.
who
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
I know who it
Oh,
is.
well,
then.
we'll share that off
Okay,
the
that's
air.
pretty cool. That's freaking cool. And, Shannon was going to build. We interviewed Shannon last year here at KOH.
God, that was awesome.
It was a fun interview.
fun
I mean,
thing.
That
Shannon's
was
just
30
a-
minutes.
The one,
Best
so
30
here's
minutes
the
ever.
funniest thing about Shannon Campbell, and this just kills me. And this is truly the. So you mentioned him, like he's posting on Instagram stories basically every step of that build.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I guess maybe more than that. 6 years ago, Shannon wouldn't answer an email.
No.
Shannon was basically a troglodyte when it came to technology. It was like, email, what's that foreign thing? Call
Right.
me on my phone.
Right.
Don't text me.
Yeah.
Call me. And
Right.
then he skipped 3 generations of technology.
Yeah.
He skipped Facebook, skipped MySpace, skipped email, went straight to Instagram.
Right.
And it's just kind of fun to watch someone jump in feet first like that. And it's cool to watch. Like I watched him build that shop. It was super cool.
Oh, my God.
wasn't
the
that
coupe.
awesome?
Yeah, the coupe. Yeah, watch him build that.
That's a
and then-
barndominium. How fucking
Yeah.
cool is that? He's in his bedroom with a window into his shop.
That's one of our goals.
That's
is to
my-
talk- is to
that's my
interview him
dream.
in the barndominium.
In the coupe, yeah, he'd be fine with it. Yeah,
I know.
he's
Hell
always
yeah.
hitting me up. He's like, "When you're driving through Arizona, stop
Yeah,
by.
yeah.
Stop in." And I'm like, that's one thing I need to start doing. And as I turn 50, I realize I need to do this more when I'm driving across. Because I'll go see my son in Arizona.
Sure.
Like when I leave here, this time I'm flying, but normally I would drive. I would stop in Tucson, see my son for a couple days, but then I would literally just cannonball at home.
Yeah.
I need to start, and I have a friend who he started doing this, and he's like, when I drive cross country, I stop in and I start seeing more people.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's about the same age as me. He's like, I realize that when I turn 50, these relationships, all this kind of stuff, these are more important than the cars. Chip Foose said it best: projects are projects, people are people. People are more important than projects.
It's so true.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think that's honestly one thing I need to do more of. I need to say, you know what? When I'm driving from Nashville to King of the Hammers, instead of I have to be there Sunday, so I'll leave Friday. Maybe I have to be there Sunday. Maybe I'll leave Wednesday.
Right.
Exactly.
Stop at a couple spots,
Slow
see some
roll it.
people, slow roll it. Exactly. Yeah, because that's just the truth, man. And I think that's why we get all excited. My wife makes fun of me. She calls them my trade show friends because I have different friends, right?
Right,
I have
right.
friends that I see all the time.
Right.
And then I have my trade show friends. Those are my friends I see at SEMA. I see at Off-Road Expo. And they're close friends, but I only see them 2 or 3 times a
Right,
year.
sure.
Right.
Whereas it would be better to maybe see them more. And maybe plan a trip to see these people that are important to you in your life.
So
that's all you've got. That's really all
And
you've
you
got.
know,
at the end of the day.
not to bring the conversation down.
No,
but
do
I
it.
thought of this at the
I-
same time when we recently lost Ken Block.
Yep.
Oh my
And
God.
my entire social media feed for 2 weeks was nothing
Ken
of
Block.
Ken Block.
Yep.
And I thought, you know what? That's incredibly sad because yes, I'm sure Ken knew who all these people were,
Yeah.
but I don't think he knew while he was alive how important these people were
in
to
their
him.
life. Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I
The
said, you know what?
inspiration.
Yeah, I said, you know what we need to do? I said, someone needs to just say, all right, you know what we need to do? We need to have hey, let's take this week and we're going to say, let's everyone chime in on Randy from
Right.
Bomber Fab.
Right.
Right. It's
Everyone who's been inspired by Randy from Bomber Fab, jump on Instagram and tell your story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be great because I'm sure Randy would prefer to know all that stuff now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's what people should do because the reality is, Randy would be the last one to stand up and admit it.
Yep.
He's
Absolutely.
he's the first person, in my opinion, to build a car specifically for King of the Hammers Racing.
Right.
I don't care. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Shannon would be up there, but I think at the time when Randy brought out Bomber #1, which, by the way,
Bomber #1.
we just saw qualify top 10.
Exactly.
Racing.
Trent Roberts.
Bomber #1. So, He is the first individual. The number of people he's impacted in our sport has got to be astronomical.
Yeah.
Students from the fab school.
Yes.
With how quiet he is, I mean, it's
Yes,
just,
exactly. And so I've said to my wife, that's what people need to do. They need to come out and say, you know what? Let's take this week and make it like if you've had if Randy Slauson has an impact on you, get on social media and make a post about Randy Slauson.
right.
No, exactly. And then like Randy is like intimidating when you first meet him and he's like analyzing you. I mean, he's 3-time king and stuff. But yeah, it's like but you get to know Randy, he's like super freaking cool dude.
Yeah.
Right?
But they all are.
But that's it. But all the racers, if you get through that barrier, whatever their intellectual deal is, I mean, they're humans just like us, and it's like they welcome it, and it's like at Trail here I saw it, and there was this kid. Randy had Gold Digger out there 4-steered up in a booth, and this little kid came up, and I go, "Hey, you want to meet Randy?" And he was like 10 years old, whatever. And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Hey, Randy, this kid's got a bomber chassis,
little
axial
RC
car.
Yeah,
He wants you to sign it." He goes, and Randy came up to me after that and goes, "I love that shit."
Yep.
And it's just super cool
Yeah.
to see that. I mean, it's the human aspect.
The fact to show you how transcendent Randy is, not to make this the Randy Slauson.
Yeah,
effect,
no.
But I've been a fan of Randy since I saw his first bomber car.
Right.
On display at Off-Road Expo. I think it was 2007.
Right.
And we talked about it back then, and that that was the very first bomber ever built. The fact that Dave Cole is out rolling around in a bomber.
Exactly.
Because, we all know it. For those of us in the know, Dave and Randy, not the bestest of friends.
No, not the best friend.
But
what does that say?
that says
Yeah,
a whole
it
lot
says
about
a whole
Randy's
lot.
car.
And that's exactly
No words
it.
need to be spoken.
Yep. But I think that's just it. I honestly think if I had any impact on anybody, I would say, and maybe we'll try and do it. I think it'd be great to do it. We should take like 2023. We should say, here's what we'll do. Like once a month, everyone who's got something nice to say about Jason Shera, jump on Instagram
Dude.
next week. Do it.
I
Let's
love
get
it.
on
I
there.
love that idea, and
That's
it's
a good
so
idea.
true.
That's
And
a great
it's,
idea.
we talked about it earlier in this podcast about how approachable Ultra 4 is, where you could walk into a pit of Lauren Healy, Von Gittin, Jason Scheer, Randy Slauson, and they're gonna have a conversation with you as long as they're not like changing a motor or something major
they're
going
banging
on.
and clanging. Don't bother them.
And that's why Randy and I always got along so well. I was at Trail Hero 2 years ago, and he walked up, and I'm trying to get an axle out of the back of my M715, and that was when him and I were talking about me building my bomber car, and he's like, "This is why you and I get along so well, because you're sitting over here, grease up to your elbows, trying to get this axle apart.
Right.
I'm the same way."
Yeah.
And Randy is. And that's the other cool thing about Ultra 4 is the fact that you've still have these builder driver winners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a lot of those
Yes.
people out there. And that it really truly is anyone's race any day. They need the perfect race, the perfect day. You need the perfect package to win this race.
Yes.
But being that builder driver winner definitely gives you one extra bullet in the chamber
Hell
than
yeah.
the
Absolutely.
paid driver. Not taking anything away from the Gomez's,
So-
but the reality is that Randy and all these, like Randy and Shannon and Bailey and Wayne,
Yeah.
these guys, they know that car inside out.
Absolutely.
They can literally, it's like that famous line from the movie, was it Rush? Was it Rush where they were talking about the race car driver? And he goes, the reason I'm a good race car driver is I have a sensitive ass. Because I could feel
Mechanical
this car.
sympathy.
Yeah,
You
whereas
know the car.
Those builder drivers
operator
winners
any.
are the guys who are in that car. They know every squeak, rattle, squawk, clunk noise that's in that car, and they're like, "That's a normal clunk.
That's-
we can keep
that's a
going.
normal-
That's a bad clunk. That's a bad clunk. It's time to pull over and
That's
check out that
exactly it. I mean, and that I love that because mechanical sympathy just rings with me on so many different levels.
Yeah.
So how cool is it to build a vehicle and drive it over the Rubicon or something? And we have this conversation with my friends, and you can money, you go out buy something and drive it, whatever. I get that, and good on you. I wish I had that kind of money where I didn't have to work on my own junk, but. I love Shannon Campbell goes, "Oh yeah, we're just racing our junk today." But there's something about that where you go out and build it and you go race or you go do the Rubicon. Let's just say
Ford
just
Ice
the Rubicon or Ford
or
Ice
any
or whatever.
trail, yeah.
Any trail. And it's like you have a different level of appreciation. Not only did you just conquer this particular trail, but it's something that you built and put your heart and soul into.
To me, it's the trash to treasure thing, right?
Trash to treasure.
I like that. And that's how I look at it. That's why everyone's like, "What? Well, if you're like I literally have." So we talked about this before. What's the new build? What new build we're gonna? So I bought a Bronco and sold it before I took delivery.
Okay,
because I made a bunch of money.
You're like Randy.
Yeah, literally.
You took delivery of the
I didn't even take delivery.
Wow.
So I got caught up in the hype. I'm not gonna lie, of the Bronco launch, SEMA, whatever it was, 3 years ago.
Sure.
Right? And I was like, I'm ordering a Bronco. And I'm sitting on my computer watching TV, and I've spent the $100 and ordered a Bronco. And forgot about it. Gone. I may have had a few whiskeys that night. I'm not gonna lie. But so literally I think it was 18 months later. I'm driving back from a Jeep junkyard, which I go to all the time up in Indiana. Called, they're a great source for Jeep parts. I go there all the time. And Baseline 4x4 auto recyclers. They're guys who, like, if you want a Jeep part, they're the guys to call.
Okay.
So I'm driving back from there with I think it was a couple of JK axles is what I bought. And my phone rings, and I'm just driving the truck, and the phone pops up, and I don't recognize the number, so I answer on the hands-free, and it's like, Mr. Johnson, this is so-and-so from Columbia Ford. We have a build date for your Ford Bronco. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I ordered a Bronco. And he goes, do you still want this truck? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I don't want that truck. I'm good. And he goes, well, we can't sell it to anybody else.
Yeah, you can.
Without your permission.
Oh.
You have to write us a letter. And so I'm like, why don't you call me when that Bronco arrives? So then I talked to my friend who's a big Bronco guy, and I'm like, hey, I've got a 2-door Sasquatch,
nice,
big motor, I got all the options that you'd want. It's a Wild Peak, whatever edition it was, got it coming. They honored the original price, which was $45,000.
Yeah, so no dealer markup.
And I was like, I've got this truck. If you know anybody who wants it, let me know. A friend of mine comes in, texts me out of the blue. Friend is like, it was like one of those Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separations friends. So he hits me up, and he goes, hey, friend, that so-and-so told me you have a Bronco on order. Do you want to sell it? And I'm like, throw me an offer. He's like, I'll give you $20,000 over sticker. And I'm like, done.
Boom.
So he showed up, paid me $20,000. I walked in the dealer. I'm like, he's buying this Bronco. And they're like, we don't care, dude. Someone's got to buy the Bronco. Yeah. Sign this paper. It's his Bronco. So anyway,
kidding.
So that Bronco's gone. So to me, and so I took that money, went away. Bronco's gone. Because for me, as much as I think that Bronco's cool, I brought it on to I needed it for 4-wheeler. I told him I needed it. So he got a good deal because we still threw a bunch of parts at it. It's a nice Bronco. And it's a cool truck. And I drove it. I thought it was super cool. But as cool as that Bronco is, I'm way more excited about the 1968 Jeepster that I bought for $2,000 that I'm going to build my own frame. I actually have the same motor, not the same motor, but I have a 3.5 EcoBoost out of an Exploder that I'm going to swap.
Yeah, we just saw that video. Yeah,
so
that's cool.
That motor's going in the Jeepster, couple of JL axles, and to me, that same money, that $45,000 that I could have spent on that Bronco, I'll spend like 25 to 30 building a sweet 1968 Jeepster that in my mind is way cooler and to me means more because I built it.
Well, look at the fact that you're just the badass fabricator. I mean, dude, I've been watching your show, whether it was Extreme 4x4 with Jesse back in the day or with your current shows. I mean, it's just, I wanted to kind of, I don't want to derail the story or the show, but man, I've been a fan of yours for years and years and years, and watching all the stuff you've done. We've obviously met you at SEMA over the years, but one of the things that resonated with me so much over the years was that Hummer build that you did.
Oh, the Suburban Gorilla. Yeah.
Where did that end
So
up?
that's actually on the latest YouTube video, the Q&A. So the Q&A session, we talked earlier about why the Wheel and Wine and Whiskey podcast isn't on YouTube. And so I started doing Q&As on YouTube because I just got all these questions. And so we actually do have a full Q&A as to what happened to the Suburban Gorilla. But what actually happened to it was I loaned it to a friend. And it rolled down a hill.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was an Now, the good thing is no one got hurt.
Good.
And as I talk about in the YouTube video, at the time, I really wasn't using it. And I really don't like selling cars because
I kind of got that.
Yeah, so I keep a lot of my cars, partly for liability reasons and partly because I don't have to. So if I don't have to sell a car, I'm just going to keep adding it to the collection. And so at the time, that when I was talking to somebody about buying it, and then my friend borrowed it, and it rolled down a hill. He was going to a Trucks Gone Wild event, and he just ended up in a bad situation, and it went down a hill, and it just got very, very heavily damaged.
Ooh.
But he said, "I'm going to fix it before I give it back to you."
I got a bad set of tools.
My dad's got a wicked set of tools. But he said, he goes, "I'm taking care of it. Don't worry. You'll get it back the same way you loaned it to me." And but I told him, I said, "It's okay. Let me call the guy that I was talking about buying it." So I called that guy up, and he said, "Hey, I was really only buying it for the parts."
What?
So I'll buy it for the same price.
Because you had that pumped up Duramax.
It's got a twin turbo. Had a twin turbo Banks, one of the very first standalone Banks turbo engines.
Yeah, the Banks. The owner, what was his
name?
Gale.
Gale Banks.
Gale built
came in, and you guys
that.
were talking about building that. Yeah. So that thing was pumping out some major HP.
It was 1,000 horsepower, 1,800 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, but the problem with it was great. It was insane, but it was the way that Gale made that power was he would actually fly cut the top of the pistons and over rev the Duramax. So you lost all the benefits of the diesel. Like, yeah, it was a great numbers truck because it had these huge numbers.
Sure.
But towing, not fun at all.
No, really?
Yeah, terrible towing. You had to get it up to like $4,000.
Well, that was
so you would like
which is a lot for a diesel.
Yeah, you'd literally hit a hill and like the whole truck would start slowing down, and then it would, because it had the Allison transmission in it, it would downshift like 3 gears, and then it would take off like a rocket ship, even with a 40-foot trailer on the back. And then you're like, it's literally like trying to drive a houseboat up a hill. Like you're checking lane to lane on that thing. But yeah, it was a great truck. But yeah, unfortunately, that was one that did not.
So it's no longer with us.
It's parted out. Well, no, it's like I said in a video recently, man. Every off-road car is just Mexican food, man. You go to you talk to anybody about their off-road car. You go into any Mexican restaurant, it's all the same food. It's seasoned
Just
meat in a tortilla.
Just how it's presented, right? Is it folded? Is it rolled?
Is it deep fried? Is it open
fried? Exactly.
It's all
I've always said that about Mexican food. It's just how it's presented.
Like Taco Bell.
It's flat.
Yeah, and every off-road car is the same. It's usually an LS Turbo 400, couple axles and some tires and wheels. An Atlas transfer case, whether you call that an Ultra 4 car or a rock bounce or an Overlander, it's all the same parts.
So
it's
good.
Mexican food, man.
Well, those were some of my favorite episodes. I mean, and then you guys built that gooseneck trailer that attached to that rig, and that was like, I mean, obviously our sport is about building not just tow rigs, but the rigs to be towed. And you've covered it all, which is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. That's the thing that we talk about this all the time with people. And I mean, back in the day when we launched Extreme 4x4, when Spike TV gathered us up, brought me in to create that show, launch that show, then we brought Jesse in to co-host it. It really, really was. There was nothing else like it out there. That was the Pirate 4x4 was online, and that was it. There were a few magazines, like even then Peterson's 4-wheel drive, JP, four-wheeler. Those weren't hardcore off-road magazines.
No.
It was like literally like, oh, you want an SM 465 behind your 460 big block? Like, no, come on, no one wants to do that.
Well,
anymore.
you remember the '80s where there was like, how many shocks do you have on your rig, right? Like there was like 4 shocks per wheel.
8 shots on my front end.
Yeah,
Chrome.
Yeah, and Chrome don't get you home though.
Now it's traction boards.
Yeah.
How many traction boards do you have? Oh, you have a hard shell rooftop tent? I have a soft shell rooftop tent. I call it the poser lander. It's no different than the 80s Chrome shocks.
You're going to infuriate a whole section.
Oh, they all know. They all hate it. Yeah.
Did you see the traction board on the back of my buggy? I got to show that to you. It's a bottle opener. It's this big. It's a bottle opener, Max Tracks. And when Randy broke down at Trail Hero, so this is a great story. So we're Trail Hero. They have the big the crawl competition, and Randy's got Gold Digger and blew out a rear U joint.
He broke it.
He broke it. The
good news is
he was riding with Holly Fowler. Holly Fowler was in the passenger seat, and so I get this call. I'm heading back from the competition. And I get this call from Randy. He goes, "Hey, I'm broke. Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm heading down back to camp." He goes, "I need help." "Where are you?" "Well, I'm at the top of whatever freaking trail, crazy ass trail."
So wait, you rescued a 3-time king?
So whatever trail you were on, you could see the lake.
I know. I go, exactly. And I go, "Are you?"
I can see the lake. Oh, that's every trail.
I go, "Are you upside down right now?" And he goes, "No, I'm safe." But he goes, I can't move. And I'm like, oh my God. So I get up there and I call Woody. because he knows all those trails. He
Yep.
does a ton of recoveries.
Yep.
I'm fishing for whatever. I go, hey, Woody, you want to fish for a bomber right now? He goes, I'm in. so he comes up there. But anyways, I had this little mini traction board, and then on Holly's channel, I'm like showing off this traction board. I go, maybe this can get Randy out. But anyways, fun stuff.
Holly's going to be here tomorrow.
I know. So I was just watching it. I wanted to get into that with you because I know you and her converse and have done some stuff together working on the Tread Lightly Jeep and stuff. And so she finally loaded up from Utah and is headed to the lake bed with Nessie.
Yeah.
So what do you know? What do you think about that build? What's going on? And her and Walter, Walter's not racing. It's I
think it's Chris Miller.
Chris Miller.
I don't know if that's still happening, but I think that's the plan. Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty cool from her story going from just like opera singer to like moving to the United States to like I'm getting into four-wheeling to now I'm racing KOH.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun. So I met Holly on and off at a few off-road events, and then I really met her when we did Trail to SEMA. I guess it was 3 years ago. So,
okay.
Yeah, we did. So Trail to SEMA was a great idea from Power Stop Brakes, where they just got a big group of people together. We'd all go four-wheeling before the SEMA show. And it was, normally we would just go and we could do Moab, Sand Hollow, Vegas, SEMA show.
Sure.
And then the year that Holly came, it was like a bigger deal. And we did this very strange route to Vegas that included like Colorado, hammers. It was, I call it the Star of David tour.
I remember that.
We literally drove past Vegas and waved it and then came back to Vegas. It was a very strange route. But yeah, so we hung out with Holly. That's the first time I met her and spent a lot of time with her. And she's a great person, absolute lover. And then, I've always told her, I said, hey, if you're ever on the East Coast and you have trouble, shop's always open, shop's yours, because it's not a real shop. It's just a fort. It really is. It's literally a fort with a bourbon bar. I love that. Yeah, it's not a business. People ask me all the time, do you work on people's cars? No. We make TV shows, we generate content. It's a TV studio, but it's kind of a fort. My wife calls it our cottage. It's not a real thing, but it's really just a way that I can make money without having to have a real job.
Yeah, right? Avoiding the real job.
So they came out, we worked on the Tread Lightly Jeep, which was great. And I told, and honestly, I talked to her about it, and after she came to the shop and did the Tread Lightly thing, she's like, Walter and I made the decision. We're getting a shop.
Yeah.
It was the right, and I think it was a great idea for them.
Huge move.
Go and do that shop. Super excited to see her come out and race. Surprised she did the 4,500 class. I think it's interesting. I thought she would have fell into stock class.
4,600.
Yeah, but that 4,500 class. But like I said before, there's not a lot of cars in that class. But it's I'm excited to see her out here. Honestly, I think they're probably still working on the car on the trailer.
They will be.
As they're headed out. I told her. I said, if you need my help, text me. I'm on the lake bed.
Okay.
I'm here all week. I said I can help you tonight.
Yeah.
But she texted me and said, we're not going to qualify. We're not doing that.
Okay.
We're just going to get the car to lake bed, get it running, do some shock tuning, and then line up on race day and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited for it. It'll be interesting to see because that is totally opposite from her driving style.
Right.
She's not a high-speed person. Never has been. Always been a crawler.
Right.
So it's going to be fun to see her come out and do some actual king.
But to make that evolution, and that was it. I mean, it's like I love rec wheeling, and I have no desire to race. People are like, Jason, do you ever want to race? No, I don't even want to ride in the right seat. I don't want to get beat up for 8 hours on this lake bed.
Wait a minute. So I got a taste of what it's like to be with a professional race car driver. 2 years ago, I was right seat for Eric Wicks in his Trail Bomber.
Yep.
And we had just finished Fordyce Trail. We were at the top of Windshield 5, and he's like, let's see how fast we can get back to camp. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, we got back to camp in like 3 minutes.
I always, we were talking about it earlier today with myself and Ben Napier, because Ben has now transitioned out of racing into basically race director / announcer. And I asked him, I said, would you ever come back and race again? He's like, I don't think I could do it. It's really hard. And I said, I consider myself fortunate that we raced in 2009, 2010. Those were like, in my mind, in my memory, that was the heyday of hammers, right? I mean, there was no Hammertown.
No.
There was like 50 of us out here in motorhomes maybe I think there was a food truck one year.
right. Taco truck
wasn't
and a
very good
campfire.
taco shop, campfire,
And a lot of beer.
But it was the reason I say that I'm glad I raced 2009 2010 is we took the line with Robbie Gordon and passed him. And I'm
Wow.
like, feather in our cap.
Yep.
I'm done.
Right.
We're finished.
We
passed Robbie Gordon in the desert. We can just pull over right now. Race is over. I'm good. And then we raced Roush Creek. We raced a bunch of local races for us, which was tons of fun. But to do it now, like it's a commitment. It's a full-time job if you want to quit. It's for the guy. I was super excited about this KOH rookie deal they've got going on.
Yeah.
That was super neat
Was
to
there
watch them do
80
that.
rookies or something this year
Yeah,
that went
and-
through that program?
Well, how many-
So
how
one
many-
of them's in our camp, Evolve Racing, the EV, the
Yeah.
the Test 10.
Oh yeah.
So the
I'm
Tesla
I'm
S.
super stoked to see the EV stuff
Right?
because
Yeah.
I love the fact that Dave is kind of pushing that by coming up with that spec
Yeah.
class. I knew it was a little bit ambitious when we announced it last year and then
Right.
pull the cover off.
Yeah.
There's like,
Yeah.
here's your
Here's
drive,
10 of 'em.
and I kind
Here's
of looked at it and I'm like, that package is not going to fucking work. and I remember sitting there and I was talking to I think it was Kurt from AEM at the time. I'm like, is that the package they have to run? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, they're fucked. And he's like, and he's like, yeah, it's not the package I would have chose. And I was like, there's just some other options out there that might be a little bit better. Now, they were very fortunate that they were able to hook Hypercraft early.
Yes.
Because Hypercraft is like, that's who I have on the fab table right now a long travel VW thing
Okay.
with
shit.
Tesla, LDU, and Hypercraft battery
Okay,
packs.
nice.
And Hypercraft is so good to work with.
Yeah.
They have a similar mindset of, hey, let's push the sport. Let's work on this together. It's not like, oh, my stuff's proprietary. You don't get to know it.
Right.
When I saw them at SEMA, I'm like, hey, I need the CAD files for your battery packs for JEH Consulting, who's designing my chassis, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll email that to you right now.
Nice.
And so like that's not normal. For those of you who build cars out there, don't know that. Normally, when you go up to somebody, be like, hey man, can I get the CAD files of your part? The normal answer is no. But they were like, absolutely, yeah. Oh, you're building a long travel sand car VW thing with a Tesla drivetrain? We would love to give you our CAD file so you can make sure your chassis fits our battery packs. So I think that was a very fortunate partnership for them to come up with because I think Hypercraft is really going to help them push that EV class.
Sure.
Awesome.
And so I was excited about that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to racing, the big, shouty, loud V8s, they're not
It's
going
hard.
away.
It's hard to beat that. I mean, we're car guys at heart, right?
Yeah. We were at PRI show, I think it was 2 years ago, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were, at the time I have a friend of mine who's big in the diesel world, super big. His name's Braden Fleece. He's like the guy when it comes to diesel performance on the East Coast, especially Duramax stuff.
Okay.
And he's also a huge EV geek.
Yeah.
He's the only EV guy that I can talk to because everyone else is like fucking EVs. Oh,
Wow.
stupid. And they give me all these like, that's not the solution to blah blah. And I'm like, that's I am not going to get into a political conversation with you. I just really like torque.
You know what
like
Jason, you know what
torque.
Jason says? Fuck Cummins.
That's right. That's
Same
right.
thing, yes. So it's like, so we're sitting there and we're talking and he's my one EV guy that I can talk to. So we're having a conversation about EVs and building, and he's doing some stuff with some like in and out boxes on some big pulling trucks where it's
Sure.
like, oh, put a battery bank in the back. You want an extra 400 foot-pounds of torque. You press this button right here. Boom, you got 400 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
100% emissions legal, blah, blah, blah. So we're having these conversations about EV, and then we're standing there, and then a pro mod starts. And we both kind of look over, and we're like, yeah, but nothing's ever going to replace that. Like that pro mod. You're talking about a 4,000 horsepower open header.
Right.
Just like, I don't care what you say. At the end of the day, we will still be burning some type of fuel.
Some fossil fuel. Yeah.
And you know what? In 20 years, we'll probably be ordering it on Amazon. A 50-gallon drum of something. It's going to be some sort of
Yeah.
synthetic gasoline.
I'm going
Right.
on vacation. I need gas.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, right now everybody's all high on EVs, but you know, what was that test on the fast lane or whatever it was when they got their F-150 and they did a tow test, the Lightning.
Yeah, but that's a terrible. This is
Yeah.
that's the problem with EVs in America. This is the mistake we're making as Americans. We are trying to turn vehicles that shouldn't be EVs into EVs.
Right.
That should not be an electric vehicle.
Well, but they're trying to.
The BMW i3. My wife has one. Bought it 4 years ago. It's the perfect example of an EV. Small. 2-door,
Sure.
tiny little car, 200-mile range. It's not designed to tow a trailer.
Well, that's what we're trying to. We're trying to put a round peg into a square hole.
Yeah, we're doing it wrong.
And I mean, it's like when these guys are saying, "Oh, we're going to tow this 10,000 pound trailer for
Stupid.
300 miles with an F-150 Lightning." Ain't gonna fucking happen,
You'd be
man.
smarter to do it with hydrogen. Do a hydrogen motor. Get a
super
hydrogen.
We are
efficient.
sitting in my camper, which is currently sitting on an
What? Oh, F-350. You said it. You Ford guy down.
a Ram
deep down, Chris.
3500, and I filled up twice to get here. But I mean, you couldn't. I'd be waiting in a electric charge station for 4 hours.
I think
each
it's
time.
What I say to people all the time is, so think of it this way. All right. If everyone who didn't like cars like we like cars, like the reality is I like cars.
Yeah.
That's just the truth behind it. You know,
Sure.
and I say this all the time. Second Amendment conversation
No
would end
secret,
tomorrow
Ian, no
if we were just
secret.
honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Hey, why do you need 7 guns? Because I like guns.
Yeah, because I like
That's
guns.
just the end of the conversation, because this is America and I can have things that I like.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't have to get this whole big, deep political constitutional.
No.
The conversation is simple. Why do you need a machine gun? I like guns.
Yeah.
I like guns.
There
Okay,
it is.
I like some guy out there likes fishing boats.
Yeah. Whatever.
I think fishing boats are stupid. If I want to fish, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to buy a fish. I'm not going to go buy a $50,000
fishing at the grocery
I'm going to buy a $50,000 bass boat and be like, this is an investment for my family.
Well, the boat's about 10 grand. The engine's 40.
Exactly. I don't do that. But I like cars. But if everyone who looked at a car as a simple, like, unfortunate thing I have to get to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If everyone who did that owned an EV, guess who wouldn't buy gas anymore?
Yep.
Those assholes.
Yep.
Guess what the price of gas would do?
Yep.
I'm surprised. It would probably go down.
Probably.
We saw
here we
it. We saw it when COVID hit. When COVID hit, the price of gas went way down. Everyone's like,
nobody's
"Why
moving.
is gas
Everybody's
only
scared.
$1.75?"
They're at their home.
Because
Oh.
no one's buying
Yep.
gas.
Great
It's
day.
kind of
Yep.
a supply and demand
Supply
thing.
and demand.
we
Yeah, exactly
as outdoorsmen, we're continuing to travel to the outdoors because nothing changed.
So
Nothing
how
changed.
scary was it? We went to Tyler's bachelor party.
Oh, yeah,
during
I missed
COVID,
that.
And like you leave the Bay Area of like, the Silicon Valley, like, and I've got a truck with a camper on the back, a trailer, and a rock buggy. You're not going to the grocery store, right? So it's like, I cannot fly incognito up to Tahoe to go on this trip. And I'm like, literally, it was a weird freaking time in our society.
Oh,
and
bizarro world.
I don't carry armed guns, but at that time I did, when all those riots and stuff and people were like standing on freeways. I'm like, if you're in my way, I don't know, but I want to be armed, and I'm not going to let you freaking stop me from going
There
forward.
may
To
or
me,
may
COVID
not be a 40 caliber pistol in this camper right now.
Yeah, there's a 45 because they don't make a 46.
That's right.
You know why I've got a 45? Why they don't make a 46? That's how it works. But no, to me, COVID, and this is like me not being from here, me being from a foreign country. I tell people all the time. It's like,
Foreign country, Canada.
Yeah,
really foreign.
America's attic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it's like your. I tell people all the time, it's like your attic. It's where you put stuff and then you forget about it. Like back-to-back World Series wins, basketball championships, stuff like that.
Right.
Hockey gold medals, things that you don't realize you need.
Nova
Until you're like,
Scotia.
oh, wait a minute.
I love Nova Scotia.
So anyway, I tell people all the time, I said, honestly, when my son went to college, I told him, I said, here's the deal, son. He had full ride scholarships to go to any Tennessee school he wanted because he could play football.
Uh-huh.
But I told him, I said, listen, go somewhere else, because here's the coolest thing about America that a lot of Americans forget. I've traveled a lot. You've traveled. You've been to Europe.
Yes.
I, in my opinion, don't believe there's another country on the planet that is geographically or economically or I guess it'd be societally or basically diverse as America.
Oh, truth.
You
100%.
want big trees and mountains, go to the Pacific Northwest. You want the desert, go to the South. You want swamps, alligators, and meth heads, head to Florida. You've got all you have these options.
No judging.
And that is what. But at the same time, the other thing that makes America great is it's really, and people who don't live here don't understand this. It's 50 little countries.
Yep.
Basically.
When COVID hit California, guess where COVID didn't hit? Tennessee.
Yeah.
We didn't have COVID in Tennessee.
Yeah.
We're armed. We shot it all.
We shot it all. I love it.
Our production company got so much work out of California because the companies would call us and be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Are you still in
We
production?"
can't-
We're like, "Of course we're still in production."
Yeah.
There's no
we
COVID
can't
here.
produce because
Isn't
of all
that-
these COVID rule of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, we have a team of 10 or less, so yeah, we can set COVID protocols in place. Just give us the protocols. We can still produce for you. So we got so much work out of California, and it's just, but that's, to me, that's what makes America great. Is if you don't like what's going on in your state, guess what? You can jump a state, and it's a different world.
You're right.
Yeah.
And that,
You're
and
right.
there's not, and Canada, people don't realize this, second largest country. You know, no one else admits that, but it's big. I always make fun of people from Texas. They're like, Texas is big. I'm like,
We're bigger.
Yeah, I'm like, try Ontario. That's 3 Texases, just so you're well aware. 3 Texases fit inside Ontario.
Right.
So Ontario, Canada. But the difference is, in Canada, when they make a law in Ontario, that's the law nationwide. It's,
Really?
Yeah, coast to coast. And it happens like that.
Wow.
In America, that's not how it works.
No.
There's
it'll be
laws
like
for every
going
state.
it'll become a law like on January 1st or January 7th or whatever it is.
Yeah.
After they,
Yeah,
I
it's
get you.
not the same. And so I tell people all the time, it's the coolest thing about the United States is the fact that you have 50 tiny little countries.
Yeah. No,
And it's the best part about this country.
It is,
Absolutely.
and it's funny, and so it was interesting this week. Rufus Racing, friends of the Wicks family racing. I had a 15-year-old kid riding with me, Zayden, and first time at the Hammers, riding in a rock buggy up, Thor's Hammer, Blue Dot, Z-Walk. And he's like, we don't have anything like this in Australia.
No.
We
I
don't
was
have this
shocked at that.
option.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was talking to Ben about that up in the booth. He's like, I was like, do you still race? Or anything? He's like, no, I got rid of all my cars. I have a couple side-by-sides. And he said, we just don't have anything like this that matches this in Australia. And I was shocked. Now, the one thing, I am going to Iceland this year.
Okay.
And I was talking to a friend of mine who'd been, Nate, Dirt Lifestyle Nate.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, so my son is graduating college. And so as a good Canadian, it's a rule. When you graduate college, you go to Europe for a little while.
Okay.
So he is, we're all going, it's big. That's how it works, man. You got to go on a trip.
Well, there you
Before
go.
you start your real life, right? So we're all going as a family to England for a couple days. Then he's going on a 2-week tour of Scotland and Ireland.
Okay.
Sweet.
He's on this big tour with a bunch of other young people. And then my wife and I are jumping to Paris because we have friends in Paris. We spent a couple days there. And then we're flying home. And all the flights coming home now stop in Iceland.
Oh,
And I
really?
was like, we're going to stop in Iceland. Let's spend 4 days in Iceland.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
so we talked. I called up Nate because Nate had been
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm going to Iceland. He goes, oh, you got to do this 4x4 tour and this and so we booked him out. We're going to do these
Super
4x4
cool.
tours. But he was saying in Iceland, same thing. They have all these crazy Iceland off-road trucks, but until there's snow on the ground, they can't
go
drive
anywhere.
off-road.
Oh, wow.
But once snow is on the ground, it's like wide open season.
Wheeled over snow, just
So
go.
can you drive or are you just a passenger?
I'm driving.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
So he said this is the one that I signed up for. Take this one, and I did it. It's a 1 day. It's like a Land Rover Defender on 37s. Blah blah blah. We're doing a volcano tour through them, and he said, "Yeah, this is the one that I did, and this one you should do too." And so I was like, all right,
Nice.
so I'll sign up for it. So we did it. I'm super excited. But he told me, he's like, "Yeah, they have these super strict rules, but and I think it's the same in Australia.
Yeah.
you can't off road here. You can't,
Yeah.
and it's the same in Canada.
But it's all over.
Yeah,
it's like these. We have so much public land in California. As much as I born and raised in California, and I want to get out of the state because of politics and all that stuff. But whatever, that's a whole other podcast. But we have so much public land and BLM land that we're out here in King of the Hammers. I mean, I take it for granted until this 15-year-old kid's going, I got nothing like this in my country to go
right.
do. And this is super cool.
In Ontario, we have more snowmobile trails, miles of snowmobile trails than highways. And all of them are on like abandoned railroad beds or private land. And these are legit trails. But you can't drive on them unless you're on a snowmobile.
See?
So wheeled vehicles are no
Wheeled
not
vehicles.
Yeah.
Now, some of us do. and we run the risk of getting. But that's what we used to do as kids. We'd like jump in our Jeeps and bomb
Right.
down.
Sure.
But it was like, I'm like, why can't we drive down these? They're like abandoned railroad
Right.
beds. What are we doing? Hurting the rocks that used to hold trains?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, you can't be on here unless you're on a snowmobile. I'm like, this is so stupid. But yeah, it's the same in Canada. We had so strict regulations where we could take an off-road vehicle, and that's the other nice thing about the States. You have all these like, oh, you have an OHV area. Well, now you have to let. Okay, that's fine. If you're gonna have a vehicle, if you're gonna let horses on there, you gotta let a vehicle on there. You have, somebody wants to shoot guns on there, you gotta let them shoot guns on there. There's the freedoms that we have here in this country that I think some people take for granted.
Yes.
I try to explain to people all the time. There's a difference between freedom and free.
Right.
So
Right.
So everyone, people get all bent out of shape, not to get political, but like you said.
Right.
I'm like, listen, let me explain something to you. I've been to Cuba. All right, in Cuba, when you get pulled over and arrested by the army, it's not the police.
Yeah.
They basically we've seen it happen in cities. They basically stand on the side of the road, they blow a whistle, you all pull over, everyone gets out of the car, they pull their papers out, put them on the counter.
your papers.
Exactly. They put their hands on the car, and somebody from that car gets thrown in the back of a 6-wheeled army truck, and then their family worries about whether they're going to see them again
Ever
in the future.
again.
In America, you get arrested.
Right.
The cop puts his hand on your head so you don't bump it as you get into the cruiser.
car.
Like, that's the difference. Like,
Right.
that there's freedom is not having I only get 50 choices of ice cream at the ice cream
Right,
store.
right.
I demanded 67. No.
Right.
Freedom is the fact that when you get in the back of that police car, your loved ones can say, I demand to know where he is, and they legally have to tell you.
Or you may never see him again.
Yes, it's not
Right?
it's not the I can't believe they took away my free Wi-Fi on Southwest. This is bullshit. That's not freedom.
Holy
That's
shit.
convenience. There's
Isn't
a
it
difference
crazy
there.
though? It's all perspective. And it's like wherever you grew up and what you're doing, and it's like, growing up here in California, it's like, you take this stuff for granted, and then talking to people or traveling, and that's a true gift, is being able to travel throughout the world and see different cultures, and it's like, holy crap. We're pretty well off here,
You think?
It is the one thing that I do think that more Americans should do, not to be like the Canadian who's moved into your country and tell you what to do. But like you said, traveling and seeing the world and seeing how other people live. Like, you think of Australia as just a giant America.
Right.
But it's not.
No.
With kangaroos.
It's a completely different culture. And
Outback.
It's all different. And so traveling is a good thing. And no, Epcot is not traveling.
No, that's not traveling.
Come on, man. I was at Epcot. I saw the world.
Why would I go to France? I can go to Vegas and see the Eiffel Tower. Not the same.
Oh, shit.
Not the same.
Oh, you burst my bubble again. God damn it. Shit.
No, exactly. It's just,
Right on.
it's crazy. I'm just, it is. I mean,
But I
you
think-
gotta grind yourself, right?
And I think the most important thing is I think that would make people probably appreciate a little bit more. Like we talk about all the time, but everyone's land use this or land use that, or we should help this people out, we should help these people out. But the reality is most people don't realize, oh man, I should have done something until it's gone.
Right.
And once it's gone, it's gone.
Absolutely.
And unfortunate. And I just had I was sitting had a conversation with Greg from Rugged Radios, Greg Cottrell. Him and I are good friends, and him and I were talking, and all these conversations around land use. And the reality is that land use now is legitimately up to the lawyers. And the truth is, if you really want to help out a land use organization, it sounds like a very heartless thing to do. Just write them a check, man. Just write them a check.
There's truth to that.
It's an awful thing.
Because lawyers cost a lot of goddamn money.
Yeah, and the truth is that's where the battle is going to be won.
Absolutely. In the courts.
It's an unfortunate, but the good thing is we have that option. At least we have the option. At least it's not like them coming out. Like, you remember the Battle for the Hammers? Like, the reality was Battle for the Hammers. It happened. At the end of the day, it ended with a large amount of money being delivered to some key senators to vote certain ways and come up with, just say, hey, listen, we need to, because you can't vote against the military.
No.
You will never get reelected.
Shouldn't be able to.
And that's just the reality of it. And so I think that at the end of the day, if you really, really want to help a land use organization, yes, it's great to volunteer your time, help out X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, whenever I'm in Moab for Easter Jeep, I go to the vendor show for one reason, and that's to walk down to the Utah Four-Wheel Drive Association, buy my T-shirt for $500, even though that's a $20 T-shirt. I give them $500 to say, take the rest and keep my fucking trails open.
And Moab's under attack. Moab's under attack. Just like, Pismo Beach, California Coastal Commission. It's a never-ending battle.
It's all dollars.
Pick your battle, but help fund it, because it's not going to end.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that it's someone else's fight.
No.
I've donated to Friends of Oceana Dunes. I've been to Pismo one time in my life. But at the same time, when that fight started and I saw Greg posting about it, so I went over and followed their Instagram page. I'm like, oh, I should do. So, I'll donate $100 here or $100 there. Even though I'm like, I only been there one time, but I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. And I think that's just the way it works.
Once they get a little bit, they just never stop.
Well, it's once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's what people don't understand. It's like, oh, we'll get that back. No, you won't.
No, you won't.
Absolutely. And
ask everyone in Teleco how that worked out.
Yeah, right.
That was supposed to be about salmon, but for some reason, you can now buy a retirement 5-acre lot on Teleco Hill. You can have a view of Lower 2 from your $500,000 5-acre lot and put a giant house on it.
Right.
But that was just a situation where I was like, oh, we'll win this. We'll give it up for a couple years. It's not going to happen.
No.
Once
She gone.
we lost it.
She gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
It is, and it comes down to dollars. It comes down to dollars.
Well, you got to
in
fight the
politics.
fight, man. I mean, if you just roll over and play dead, you ain't gonna happen.
So along those lines, and as much as we joke around about golf carts, UTVs, but how many people have come into our sport? And off-roading, when I started, was like, oh, you off-road, you got a Jeep, okay, whatever. But now there's so many people involved in off-roading because of UTVs and, just the affordability to get into the off-road. And before it was like, oh, you off-road, I heard about that. But now it's like, oh, you're going off-road. You got a side-by-side? What do you got? Oh, I got a rock buggy. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, it's more commonplace I'm seeing, which so strengthen numbers for our state of California. And to have this magnitude of an event in Johnson Valley, California, during COVID, those 2 years that it happened during COVID, I mean, is a true testament to our sport and the passion that people have for off-roading. Yeah,
I think it's actually even changed further than that. I think 5 years ago the UTV was the driving market in off-road because it was, getting the dirt for today for $249.
Yeah, exactly. That's cheap.
Yeah, cheap in, cheap out type of thing. I think nowadays, as much as I make fun of them, it's the overlanders.
Yeah?
That is because
we joke around about overlanders a lot on our podcast.
Yeah. They have a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Mm-hmm. But I think what actually fast-tracked that was was COVID. Yeah. So we had all these people who were like, oh, I'm stuck at home. I can't do anything. But you know what didn't close? The outdoors.
Yeah.
And so I think we saw a huge resurgence in campers and then, or tents. But I would say that probably, yes, I would say UTVs are still a huge factor in our sport. There's a lot of people getting into it.
Right.
But I would almost argue that there is probably more people who are your super soft off-roaders. I go by Tacoma. I'd put a bed rack in the back, put a rooftop tent on, some traction boards on the side, and maybe I go up to the state park and we go camping. But at the end of the day, those people, as we said before, they've got the money, they're family. Mm-hmm. I think there's actually right now, I think it's not so much UTVs. I think UTVs were 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think the UTV market's still there, but I think the biggest driving force in our industry right now is overlanding. Yeah. And I base that just off of when I go to the SEMA show, which is kind of like the barometer for everything, for everything that spends money, because at the end of the day, it's money that makes the world go round. Yep. They have an entire area dedicated to overlanding. Yep. Yeah. And I walked back there this year, and there was a Toyota Tacoma back there with a truck bed, like a camper conversion on the Tacoma, right? So I'm talking to the guy, and I was like, so how much does it cost? What's the price on this thing? He goes, oh, well, this is how it works. Start with brand new Tacoma, stretch the frame. Let's give me the sales pitch, right? Thinks I'm shopping, which I'm
You
not.
don't know who you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I had no idea who you were.
And he goes. So this one right here, as it sits right now, $355,000.
Whoa!
So,
Oh, shit.
Are you kidding?
not kidding.
Mic drop.
So I immediately, because this was always my argument against RVs. I'm not a big RV guy, right? And so I'm like, wait a minute. How many nights in a Hampton Inn
Right.
is that kind of money?
Right.
And it's 5 years, 3 months.
5 years.
Every night in a Hampton Inn. And that was averaging like $150 a night. You
Right.
can Hampton Inn sometimes for
No,
$90
wait,
a
wait,
night.
wait. Let's back the fuck up. Okay, we're sitting in my Lance 855S camper right
Yep.
now. What do you think of this?
Hey, this is great.
This is not Hampton-esque.
I am not an RV campery guy because I don't like hauling around my own turds.
Well, there you go.
I would much. I also don't like the proximity of the bathroom to the kitchen. I don't like being able to make a sandwich and use the toilet at the same
Well,
time.
let me put this to you. This whole setup didn't cost $350.
Exactly. But you know what? After he told me the price, I was slightly shocked.
Yeah.
And then I said, "So, how's business?" And he goes, "Oh, we're 3 years out on trucks."
Oh, you got to be kidding
I
me.
am absolutely not kidding. So you're talking about someone who's got 3 years out on trucks.
How many trucks is he building a
Can you
year?
hit me in the back here?
Yeah.
But that is, and it's the same. I talked to, there's a company just north of us that makes those little teardrop off-road campers.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. He said at one point in time, we were doing like 4 campers a month. After COVID, we're up to 24 campers a month. And these are $60,000 quote teardrops.
Right.
So this is basically, a glorified utility trailer.
Right.
It's got a bed, outdoor shower, no bathroom, no kitchen. And you're just basically camping in basically a shell.
A shell.
It's a fancy tent.
Right.
Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah,
And they're like $50,000. And he said, we're doing 24
ridiculous.
of these things a month. And I think that's why I say, if you're honest with yourself right now, the driving force in off-road is the quote
it's
overlanding.
It's undeniable.
It's true.
Undeniable.
I'm not gonna
and
deny
I mean,
it.
it's like when I worked my way up because I was like tent, four-wheeling, towing. And if you got to tow your rig, that was a huge thing. And then I got a camper and you could like take a shower. And I was like, that was godsend right there. So I was like, okay, we need to... Lance Life, #Lance Life. So good. Just
Yeah, I say this and that I've been shopping recently for one of those crawler hauler trailers.
yeah, that's a good setup.
Mainly because what I find with myself is when I tow across the country, which I do regularly, I find even if I stay in a hotel, I don't sleep well.
Yeah,
Because I'm just worried someone's going to peel the truck
Well,
off the
that's
back of the
it.
trailer, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I want to
So-
have my rig right out
So
behind me.
what I'm doing is I end up sleeping in the back of my pickup.
Yeah,
truck.
exactly.
And I'm like, yep, I'm gonna climb in the back of my Nissan Titan here and
Yeah,
get a great
no,
2 hours sleep.
no.
And so now I saw Holly's.
Yeah.
I really like it, and so then I've actually this year at PRI I was looking at a couple trailers. And
Okay.
so I think if that to me is the perfect for me, it's a good setup because I'm always hauling a different rig. You know,
Yeah.
for the guys that have I have a rig.
Right.
And they can, get a toy hauler and then build it. Oh, this will fit in my toy hauler. And I'll do this and I'll do X, Y, Z. But for me, my problem is every time I leave the house, it's a different truck going on the trailer.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a 715. Sometimes it's a goat built. Now it's the Bomber. Now
Right.
sometimes it's a Toyota. So if I could have something, I could be like, hey, I can tow this and then just sleep
Yep.
occasionally.
Yep.
That would be the hot ticket for me.
Okay.
The good
Right.
news is that the market's kind of crashed out on RVs because
I
everyone
know.
went crazy during COVID.
I know.
And now you can actually
Yeah.
get them at a good deal, which
There's
is
great deals
there's
out
some
there.
great deals out there right now, which is good for us for sure.
I'm just saying, if you buy an RV and it's your turds are going to be close to your kitchen.
Yes.
Tote-
They'll be right in there. Yeah.
Tote her home.
Yep.
Get a Whatever happened to that trailer you built with the
With the
tent
pop up, they
it was-
sold it.
Yeah.
So when back when we did that show, that was the production company owned everything that we built.
Oh,
so when
man,
we
that was
signed
cool.
when I signed the new deal to do 4-wheeler, so we've talked about this on a couple other podcasts, but the reality was this: when I left the old show, and I was with 4 before, I said I'm done TV. There's other ways to make money. I'll be fine.
Right.
And then Discovery Channel and Motor Trend came to do 4-wheeler. And I went back and forth with them a bunch, and they were like, yeah, well, and I said, I'm not signing a big contract, and I'm doing this. And the big kicker for me was, I said, I need to know, if I'm building something, if I'm going to put that much time and effort into a car,
Fuck yeah.
I want to own it.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, we don't care about the cars. And I was like, oh shit, this is perfect for me then. Because if you don't care about the cars, I care about the cars a lot.
Yeah.
And then
well,
to me,
you
that
put your
was
heart
super
and soul
cool.
into them.
Yeah, and so that was cool for me because so they said, all right, we're going to basically come out. You can build what you want, build how you want. Just get us 10 episodes of Four Wheeler, and we're in good shape. And so it was a great relationship. I've had relationships over the years of doing different TV shows with. I think now I'm up to 5 different television networks.
Holy smokes!
And of all the networks I've worked with, the Discovery / Motor Trend relationship that we have right now is probably one of the best ones I've ever had.
Right on.
And they're
awesome.
super cool because they're like, yeah, you can do social media. Yeah, you're fine with it. Do whatever you want. We want you to be you. Just make us 10 episodes of Four Wheeler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we're in good shape there.
That's
so
cool.
That's perfect.
Well, I can say over the years I've enjoyed a lot of all of your shows,
Well, I appreciate
especially
that. Thank you.
the Extreme 4x4 with Jesse, and God rest her soul.
Yep.
But I mean, your content's been epic, and the builds have been damn cool, and it's awesome to finally have you on the show. I know we've been trying to get this to happen.
Yeah, it's been a long time. What a great conversation. We went around the world. We call them rabbit trails, squirrel trails, whatever.
Yeah, we went down every
I mean,
rabbit hole
we
here.
went everywhere. and that's our podcast. We're not scripted. We don't have set questions to ask everybody, and that's why I love it. We call it campfire talk.
Exactly.
it
The
was
whiskey helps a lot.
The whiskey does help. It does help. Absolutely. So, I mean, this is cool. So, okay, just to recap real quick, your dark horse is Paul Wolf.
My dark horse this year is Paul Wolf.
Okay, solid axle is Miller.
Yep.
And then
IFS is Bailey.
IFS is Bailey.
Yeah.
I love it.
Those
There
are
you
those
go.
are
I
my
love it.
top
There
ones.
it is.
Yep.
You heard
and
it
then,
here.
and then my 4500 class. As much as I'd like to pick Holly, she's not in it to win it. She's in it to have fun.
She's in it, yeah.
So I think it's John Matthews to win it.
Okay.
And somebody pointed out that Dan Fresh is now in Legends.
Oh, I know.
Dan Fresh and
Yeah, I think
Legends?
Dan Fresh is going to walk away with Legends this year. No. And
Okay.
then, of course, stock
Wow.
class. It's not going to happen, but I want Amber to win.
I know. We're all rooting for Amber.
I
Personal
hope-
friend of
I
mine.
hope-
Doesn't have enough whoop house.
I hope that something happens. Maybe there's like a factory reset on all the Broncos and the computers shut off.
Right? Starlink will beam down
You know-
and shut off the Broncos.
You know how your iPhone can tell if you've been in an accident? Maybe for somehow, all the stock class Ford Broncos
I
go
love
into a
it.
factory
I
reset
love it.
mode. They shut down.
That's right.
And then Amber passes them
All the Broncos go into lip mode, and Amber passes them on the desert. How
With-
great
with
would
all
that be?
45 whoop
I will
house.
be the one calling
I
that.
love that.
I'm so excited about
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
sure
So
Amber
good.
will love to hear that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
This is great.
Sweet.
Well, oh my God, we went around the freaking literal
We did. We did.
KOH world. So much fun, Ian. Thank you for your time. Finally made this happen. Super excited. Just great chatting with you. And
Hell yeah.
you're a gearhead, down at heart, and that's what it's all about.
We'll call this part 1 because part 2 will happen in Tennessee
Okay,
when
I
you guys
love
come
that.
out.
I would
Absolutely,
love to
buddy.
come out for
You guys-
that.
You guys come out to Tennessee. We'll do
Okay.
some Tennessee whiskey trails and we'll have some fun.
That
Hell
would be
yeah.
so much
I'm
fun.
good with that.
Yeah.
Man, it's so good. We'll have a great rest of your week here at KOH, and thanks for sitting down with us. And with that, Chris?
We're out.
Well,
Woo!
how was that ride?
That was awesome. I mean, that was 2 hours of just absolute nonstop entertainment right there.
I love that just, we couldn't, something would come up, we just roll with it, and then the stories would just ensue. And that's why I like an unscripted podcast. And, I had a couple things, to ask that were in my mind, but man, I just love the stories that came out on this one and his insight too, right?
for
I mean,
sure.
he's got a ton of experience, fabrication experience, and the culmination there of KOH and all the new race cars.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and technology and stuff. I mean, it's just it's cool. And then to hear his behind the scenes take on a few things
And his
is,
predictions.
and his predictions. Yeah. How did that turn out? Paul Wolf was the dark horse, and unfortunately, and he was our pick as well because I thought for sure that was going to, and he would have. I bet one You break, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what do we call it? Mechanical sympathy, or
mechanical sympathy. Yeah,
and he didn't have a whole lot of that early in the week.
No,
so.
no, I don't know if that's his vocabulary, but
So
he laughed at us when we said that. So
absolutely. So I mean, great talk. I mean, great time. I mean, to go, we really covered the gamut. I mean, to think about how we opened the show, the conversation, we were talking KOH, and then it kind of rolled into talk, bourbon talk and Tennessee talk, and his early life stuff, and then it, obviously we circled back and talked more about KOH. But I mean, just wow, the time flew by. It wasn't like it was awesome.
Well, that's what, I was expecting him an hour of his time, and so it was cool that we rolled over just over 2 hours talking with him, because we're always respectful of people's time, and it's just downright busy down there. But luckily we caught him early in the week before things got super crazy on the lake bed. So
you ended up, we broke up and we took some snaps, and then you had to run him over to Chocolate Thunder for the.
That's right, for the qualifying.
No.
The shootout.
Shootout.
It was shootout wins. That's right. It was for the shootout. So
that was Tuesday night.
Yeah. So, man, good stuff. It's a fun, wild ride here, and we'll see if we can crank out another 200 more. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we got next week's going to be 201, and we do have a little something special planned for that. It's going to be kind of a review of our highlights.
Our 200 episodes. A look back on 200 episodes.
Look back on 200 episodes. There might be special guests.
These are the days of our lives.
Here we go. Music.
Oh. So, fantastic. How do they get a hold of us, Chris?
Well, they can do it many different ways. One is to leave a voicemail at 408-800-5169. That's 408-800-5169. Leave a message, and it'll most likely get played back on the show.
Let us know what you thought of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Great Hopefully, we get great feedback on it. I know Ian's a stand-up guy. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have watched his various shows over the years on Spike TV and Motor Trend and whatnot. So, and of course his YouTube stuff, which is awesome. So yeah, feedback would be great. You can also email us. It's Chris or Jason at wheelingwinewhiskey.com. And or you can drop in our DMs on Instagram, which is at Wheeling Wine Whiskey. And don't ever forget about our website, www.wheelingwinewhiskey.com, where you can see all of our old episodes and our link to our merch. And what's in the merch there, Jason?
Oh, anything you want. Anything you want with the Wheeling Wine and Whiskey logo. No, we got, Johnny's been hooking us up there from Dirtbag. And we got the Element Fire Extinguisher back in stock, along with the tactical mount and roll bar mount. So
that's right.
And I'd say about 70% of the cars I saw on the Lake Bed Racing had an Element in there.
That's correct.
Again, it's a cool fire extinguisher. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. But if you need one, which you do need one, because you need at least one working fire extinguisher on your rig.
That's right.
So
and
get an Element.
This one will work no matter what. So you can neglect it, but it'll still work.
That's right. Doesn't need to be recharged. But anyways, I think we should put a bow on this, Chris.
I agree. This is a great episode.
All right. With that,
we're out.